Kristie Grier, KG.
How are you, Joe Popko?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Well, actually, now it's Kristie Grier Ceruti.
It is.
But
It is.
the every episode I do this with, because again, I'm doing this because we're all grown-ups now and married and all that kind of stuff. But I will always remember you as Kristie Grier.
That is it warms my heart. Because honestly, like my best friend from first grade calls me Greer. She doesn't even call me Kristie. So
Yeah.
and
Kristie Grier or KG, one of the two.
yeah, KG's good.
So what's
So
going
how are
on?
you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, 2021. Hopefully
I
the garbage year that was 2020 is behind us. We'll
I
see.
can't believe you're doing this. This is such an awesome concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's not new.
Well, just I mean the weekender, bringing all the
Oh
weekend.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
not the
was
podcast. I mean
it was one of those
podcast is
things.
awesome.
Yeah. I got you. I understand now. Yeah, it was like I started this and I'm like, how can I make this a lot of fun for me? And then I got to thinking, it's like, how did I get to where I am today? And how did I get to where, I'm talking on a microphone? Hopefully people hear it and enjoy it. And it all started with the Weekender. And then I got to thinking, like I feel like that's a place that everyone really, really enjoyed. And it kind of started all of our careers in one way or the other. Whether it's we all stayed in that kind of entertainment media or different kinds of media, or we said, you know what, this is not for me. Let's get out of here. So, but thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
I felt I wanted to have you as the first guest because to me, like you were the person that kind of gave me my start in 2004 as an intern. So I thought, what better way to kick it off with other than you? But I guess you had some research to do.
I did. And plus, I'm always late. Like, I couldn't be first because my MO is, even after X many years, I'm always like late. I can't be
So
first.
you just follow out. So did you teach Rachel Pugh how to be late, or did Rachel Pugh teach you how to be late?
Well, I feel like, you know, stories she tells me when she was a kid, I feel like we have the exact same. I think we were a match, a perfect match. I think we were both just equally. But the risky part is now when we ever have to catch a flight together, there's like 5 different alarms. I'm usually later now. She's
Oh
usually on
no. Wow. Well, that's not good because she's always. What is going on with this microphone?
I don't know. It's awesome.
No, it just like cut out on me again. Can you hear
I
me?
know. Yeah.
Sorry. All right.
It's like
So,
serious business there on your end.
oh
You
yeah,
got like
high tech, very high tech, a Yeti microphone. Maybe one day I'll have a studio for real.
You will. I
But
feel like
for
this is
now,
your natural.
I'm just gonna sit in my downstairs basement bar and
Well,
look like I'm in a castle, I guess.
I love it.
So what's new? What's exciting? What's going on with Kristie Grier?
Um, trying to think. Like so, it's um I'm gonna start with this week because you gave me so I felt like I was on a mission and I had the most fun this week because I was actually talking to like so many um people who were in my life at the weekender time and that, still are, but like I don't talk to them every day. And I was doing research, like I said, and so I talked to Joe Student, I talked to Shelby Rowetter, I talked to my old roommates who were like dragged into and Matt Ceruti, obviously, because we met while I was GM at the Weekender, and he was on a cover once. He lives with me still today,
Oh,
so
good. That's good.
he liked me enough to like continue the relationship there after all those years. So, but everybody. So I have to tell you this because I've been watching your videos. It was so great to see Mike and Tiffany and Leslie, and I feel like there's like a common theme when people talk about it. But even like Shelby last night, she said it, and it made me. She said that she felt like there was like it was magical, like it was a weird magic that like, and everybody. I almost feel like everybody says it was their favorite job.
Hmm.
So I mean, I feel like it's in my top three.
Yeah, for sure. You have to
I
say
like
your
being,
current job right now is probably your favorite, right?
yeah, well, I mean, I
You have
think
to say that, right?
the weekender was just like all like fun. Even when
Yeah.
it was work, it was always fun. I mean, dentists are fun. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm working at Banco Dental, and it's sort of like a national dental distributor. So we sell dentists everything from interior design of their offices to toothbrushes for their patients to drills and stuff that's scary. So, but I don't make anything there except for the blog. I write a blog called The Daily Floss, which is just like Rachel and I debated many times. So Rachel's my boss now.
Right.
So all those years later, and she actually got me to Benko, which was cool. And so we work on a magazine together for dentists, which again is more exciting than you think. But I learned a lot, and our magazine is we work with Forbes when we put it together.
Oh, cool.
And so Randall Lane, I got to meet him, the chief content officer there, and he's just legendary, I think, across the board with media and everything, um, and his team. But I laugh every year because we have an event in New York City, not this year, called we take the 40 under 40 America's Best Dentists, which it's all different criteria, but they come to New York, they converge, and so my job is to like interview them and do social media of the event and live coverage. And it always makes me think of like the model of the year party. I don't know why, because you're like planning, for almost like 10 months, and everything leads up to it, and then it's just like it's organized chaos, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's definitely it doesn't help that the backdrop is New York and it's always a different fun venue. But the dentists love it because they tell me like they take care of people every day, but no one ever takes care of you when you're a dentist and does your hair and makeup, and so we have stylists, and so much like the Weekender Models of the Year party,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Those men in the model were somebody was styling them. I don't know if it was us, but
It
there,
wasn't
there,
us.
there was a
Definitely
lot of style
was
that
not me.
wasn't in the budget.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, why don't we start off with the Weekender? That's what we're here to talk about.
Yep.
I know you were the GM of the Weekender when I was an intern there in 2004, but I think you were the GM for 3 years total.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. And what did you do? Were you with the Times leader before that as well, or?
Yep. So I was a copy editor and a page designer. So I was at the Times Leader from the minute I graduated from King's, and so it's funny because the Weekender and my first job at the Times Leader tie together because the man who interviewed me, Bob Kelliger, he used to be the VP there. He was the person who was, brought in Jim McDonald. So they were kind of like the duo. He was like the, Times Leader business side of it. And Jim McDonald had the concept. And so they brought the Weekender to life, which, I mean, there were papers like that in, Philadelphia, like the Seattle and New York, but there was nothing. I remember. So my first moment with the Weekender, and I don't have the cover, but I wouldn't show it anyway because I feel like there was a lawsuit about it at some point. My first time holding a Weekender was like the very first Weekender. So I was like 21 or 22, 22, and the Weekender was being launched, and this note went up on the wall because that's where the daily memo was, because there wasn't, I don't even know that I mean, we had computers, but they were sketchy. And this note went up on the bulletin board, and it said, wanted, volunteer, employees from, to hand out a new type of publication, evening, Wednesday evening. You'll get movie passes and $25 if you hand it out. And so my roommates and I, there were three of us, were like, hey, we're doing this. That's $75. I think we have to check with Bob if it was 25. It could have been 10, but we still would have done it because, you have to pay your rent and
Well,
movie passes,
back
right?
then, I mean, $10 was like $50 now, right?
Yeah, that was like two movies or three, and plus the movie passes. So
Sure.
it was a date night at least. So we went to, we're just psyched, everybody at work, but hardly, I feel like it was a really small group of people from the Times Leader, like not that many people signed up. And I'm just like, why isn't anybody signing up? So we go there and they give us like, newspaper bags. And I think I ended up on the corner by all the banks on Market Street, that little Franklin and
Yeah.
Market.
Yep.
And so then they handed us the Weekender. So the cover, right, was, if anybody doesn't know the first cover, it was an exotic dancer. And it was a girl in a bikini, but it said, and her parents, I guess, didn't know that she did that work. And so when we had, years later, the 10th anniversary, I guess there had been like a don't ever, print this again, because she was probably like a mom and, working, I don't know, at a bank or something. And she was just like, don't print it. So I feel like we've gotten in trouble several times for rerunning the cover. But that night, people, like, not everybody was like digging it. People were like, what, so I'm like this 21-year-old girl handing out this paper with like a, girl in a bikini that says she's a dancer. And, some people were just like, throwing it, and other people were like, whoa, what's this, And so it was a fun. And so the best part was that at the time, the Times Leader and the Weekender, the parent company was Disney.
Right.
So there was also like, there was a little kerfuffle, I think, about like, what is this paper that, that Wilkes-Barre paper's putting out? And, but it survived, like it made it. And I mean, I think that as a kid, I mean, I was from Hazleton. And so, coming to Wilkes-Barre was like the big city. And so when you would come here, and then even as I went to King's, and there really wasn't anything like that, right? Would you like agree, even when you were?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like the daily papers had like a little half page of like bars. And I think there was like Sound Check, which was like more of a music magazine, like that Lynn Carey put together, but from Jitterbugs. And it was really exciting because I think it was definitely something that was needed.
Absolutely. I remember one time the Weekender got kicked out of Turkey Hill,
I remember.
and that was not even that bad. It was just it was like underwear, right? And there was a girl. I think it was Katie Gross, at the time, had like her hands like on like kind of grabbing the butt.
Yep.
If I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. And they kicked us out of Turkey Hill.
Yeah.
And now
I
you
think.
have songs on the radio like WAP or WAP.
Yeah, right. I know, it was such a different, although when I was looking back at the archives, and I don't have any pictures, like I said, of the older ones. So there were like crazy things in it. Like there was a restroom review, and they would rank like, good or filthy bathrooms like all over town.
That's a great idea, but I'm sure it didn't go over well.
It didn't, but I mean, people loved it. I mean, I don't know if it went over with the dirty restaurant rooms. I'm
No.
sure that if somebody got, that it was a good one. But I think there was like there were pictures at least in our 10th anniversary promo, and there's a like condom man, and it was like a guy in like a condom costume. I mean, I feel like they really, like News of the Weird, which was every year, when even, after I was there, I guess when it was about the Weekender was, so 2003, 1993, like 12 years old maybe. And when we had the anniversary, but people, my whole tenure, everyone loved News of the Weird. It would win like best, like everybody be really like depressed because people be writing like the best story or the column, and Vinny Gaglione's horoscopes and the News of the Weird would always get the top vote, and model of the
Right.
week, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm actually going to be talking to Jim McDonald next, I believe.
oh, nice.
Yeah, he agreed to do this, so I'm excited for that.
What's he doing now?
I have
Did,
no idea. That's what we're going to find out.
all right. I ran into him over the years because later, and I mean, we can talk about that later, but so before Banco and after the Weekender, me and a group of Bob Kellier, the guy who hired me at the Times Leader, he was from Philly and he lived in Levittown, which is in Bucks County. And he called me and was like, "Oh, the Weekender's doing really great. I still keep up with it. Jim and I stay in touch, and I want to launch a paper like that here in the suburbs of Philly." And so ended up, like, I think at the time Jim was running maybe Metro, which was like the paper that was on all the subways in near Philly and stuff, and he may have done it in other markets, but I remember that. I remember asking Bob what he was up to, and he said that they stayed in touch. So
That's cool. Yeah, so you became the GM of the Weekender. I mean, what did that mean to you? Because I asked that question because I remember when I was an intern in '04, I said to myself, one day I want to be the GM of this weekly. So, and I know what it meant for me, but what did it mean for you? And you spent 3 years as the GM. Like, talk a little bit about just the 3 years there, and kind of
sure.
maybe the stamp that you left.
Okay. Well, I feel like so when I first got there, it was as editor, and I did that for, I guess, about a year and a half, and then the sales manager and I were kind of like equals, and then they decided, I guess after a while, they were like, we really need a GM again, because at first they just wanted to, like, we both had, I guess, the same level of experience in our own areas. And um so I mean, I was really excited to be promoted to that role, but I was sort of terrified because the editor job, that was when I got there as editor, that was the first time I was ever a manager. And it was like a small, I mean, it was like, one staff writer, like an editorial assistant, and an intern. So, I mean, I was still managing a couple people. And that was enough. And then I was managing like this whole elaborate list of, contributing writers. And that was really funny because, you kind of get to realize that the power of it is, even though your staff is really small, and like the intern aspect, with you, um, it seems like like a tiny army, because there's all these contributing writers. Somebody writes about theater, and somebody writes about movie reviews, and somebody does like album reviews and bathroom reviews. I get, not when I was there, but not the bathroom, but food reviews, and like your music specialists. And I just feel like there's a ton of people who they really love it, like they're doing it for, like, what, I don't know when you were there. When I was there, I think it was like $25 a story.
Yeah, it didn't go up much over the years.
Sadly. Because I mean, it's funny because it's so much work. Like, you don't realize, even um at the community weekly that I was working, owned by the Times Leader, was like the Abington Journal up in Clark Summit. I mean, it was the same thing up there. You might have to cover a meeting, even for a daily paper that lasted like 2.5 hours, and then go home and write about it. And it was like $25. I mean, that's, you have to love it if you're
Yeah.
gonna do that for $25. So I think that was kind of cool, is that, like, people, it was almost like a tight knit people who really felt passionate about it. And so the I'm looking at my notes, right?
That's fine.
Because there's so many. I mean, it was funny because there's so many things that.
Well, I was
Okay, so
excited to
then,
talk. I was excited to talk to you too because, like, you were there obviously before me. So, like, there's there's parts of the weekend that I don't even know about because, I wasn't there. So like it's cool to kind of get a lesson. And like as an intern, I saw you, but like, it's funny too. I was thinking, I don't think you're that much older than me. And if you are, you don't look it. So good for you. Uh,
Thank
but
you,
like
Rachel.
as a 21-year-old intern, like I always thought that you were like this, like, older person, right? And I remember you called me up. I was done with my internship. I did the summer of '04, so it was probably like May to August. And then you called me up and had me man the phones. I think it was on Black Friday, around Thanksgiving time, because you wanted to give the staff the day off, but someone needed to be there to answer phone calls or whatever. So I did that. But then by the time I was hired full time, you were already gone. So
Yep.
like,
So you were there after me. So we kind of had this like nice window where we were kind of like in that same, bubble, like when you were an intern and I was GM. I remember, so first of all, I have pictures tonight of
oh
you.
boy,
I'll share my screen, but in a little bit. But I remember you were like, you were really dedicated. I mean, even then, like you were at King's and I went to King's, so I was like, oh, King's. But you like, I'll never forget one of the first things I remember about you was, so Monday holidays, for an intern, you get the school holidays still. Like you're not like a staff member, so you don't have to work. And Monday is like the busiest day at the weekend or next to Tuesday, because Monday is when everything gets put together, and then Tuesday, Monday all the content gets ready, and Tuesday then it all gets actually built, and then Wednesday it comes out. So I remember asking you, I think I was like super desperado, like, so John, what are you doing on Monday? And I was like, it was spring, so it could have been President's Day, right? And you were like, why? And I was like, oh, I think I have a bunch of stuff to do for deadline. You want to stop in for a couple hours on your day off, school holiday day. And you were like, yeah, like you didn't even, I remember you didn't even think twice about it. And I mean, maybe you were thinking twice about it in your head, but you like came in and you hung out like really long time, and like we got to know each other, and I felt like you cared already. Like you were an intern, it was like really new, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you remember that, but like,
I actually don't, which is crazy because like I have a really great memory, but as I'm getting older and my head is getting filled with Blippi and dinosaurs, that stage of my life is that the memories are fading away. So that's why I'm also doing this. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right with how I felt as far as like my dedication, and I was all in, and that's how I am with really everything I do. It's just how I don't know if I was, that's how I was raised, but like I jump in, like, I'm 110% all the way. I always say that I would have got a tattoo of the Weekender logo. Um, I wouldn't say that I'm glad that I didn't, but if I had and things ended the way they did, I wouldn't be embarrassed or I wouldn't regret it by any means. I always said I would, if you stab me, I would bleed at little red W's.
aw, I think I totally, even back then, like first semester intern, I felt like that. And so the cool thing I remember about you was I feel like you were one of the first interns who was a guy. And the semester, it was like, so we had editorial intern, and then I think at one point we had a sales intern, who was a guy as well. But everybody, there were a lot of women, and it was you and two girls. And I was looking through the publishers boxes. I wanted to find like your first one. And I have to, can I share my screen? I'll show you the picture.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so this is,
Yeah, it was Jessica and Ashley were the two
yeah.
girls.
And I don't know where Jessica is, but Ashley is still friends with me on
Yeah, she goes
Facebook. And
by Ashley Meadows now, I believe. And
yeah, yeah.
Jessica Connor, I think her last name now is Tompkins or Tompkin.
Hold on. Trying to make sure my screen's not too messy. I'm like the queen of a million
I'm the same way.
windows. Um,
my desktop's a mess, and yeah, I have 1,000 windows open too.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, it's funny because like this, the Weekender had a lot of females as staffers or interns. Um,
oh,
and
you have to
then
let me share my screen. It's saying
absolutely, yeah, I'm just kind of filling the space.
okay. No, but it's saying it's disabled.
Oh,
The host is disabled. So
what? Oh no.
I can always screen cap them and put them in the chat or something. But
Here, try that.
okay. So um I'll go to like a closer zoomed in one then. So you had the
Here, you should be able to do it now.
I should? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Um all right, let's try it again. All right. So this is like I found 3 pages right after that. But this one, okay, so here you are, 2004, you got your
Oh
little
yeah.
goatee, and then these are this Ashley and Jessica, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then Christina,
Christina.
who
Yep.
was our, marketing coordinator. And I his name is escaping me, but
Mark.
he's from BHT, right?
Yeah. Was it Maniac Mark or Manic Mark or Mark something? Mark something.
Yeah. And then wait, I got another close-up one. So there you are with Ashley. And there's Matt
Is
Ceruti, actually.
Oh yeah. Is that Mike G up there at the top?
Yeah, this is Mike G. Yeah, and
Wow.
I have some good Mike G stories, but not bad ones. And then there you are. Woo.
I remember that. Yeah.
And look, we had like little W tattoos.
Yep.
So how about that? Like you
And it's funny too, because like I was not like the internship at the Weekender. Um, Not that I'm like this outgoing person now, but I mean when I got there, I was not um an outgoing individual at all. And I have to give props to Jessica and Ashley because if it weren't for that, they were totally cool. Like, and we spent a lot of time at bars too. So like a lot of the patrons in bars are typically, if you had to, break it out, by percentages, probably 70-30 male to female.
mhm.
Um, Maybe 60-40, but it was more male. And like, it was just kind of like weird for a guy to like, I just felt like it was easier for a girl to go up to approach guys and say, "Hey, we're doing this fun thing," because that's just, kind of how it
Yeah,
is. But
guys are gonna talk to them. Yeah. And
yeah,
but I remember the 3 of you almost like I feel like it was in the hallway of whatever bar and you guys had your t-shirts on and like the main role. Now I could be wrong because like my memory is probably not as great as it once was either. But I mean, what would you say? So from what I remember, the marketing interns had to get models and men to sign up and take their pictures, right?
hmm,
Ask them the questions. And first, when you got there, like hang the banners,
yep,
like gigantic roll of banners you had to
yep.
have. And then, I was talking about this with Joe Student and Shelby Roeder and Rachel. And I don't know if any of us can specifically remember how like summer deck parties, I know how we gave the prizes away, but just at a regular night out, like do you remember like how we gave away like the t-shirts or like if we had tickets or something, like what did we do?
Um, what did
What
we
kind of
do?
games? Did we have games or did just
This was
random?
You were already gone at this point, but I remember being at Gonda's and we did baloney darts. Rachel remember that because she was like, that was like maybe her claim to fame in her own mind was she just wanted to do like baloney darts. And I think she got the idea from King of Queens, and she just wanted to play baloney darts. So we just had a whiteboard and we drew a bullseye thing on it, and we went to the store and got baloney, and we had people toss slices of bologna at this board. People did it. They had fun.
Yeah, I think that somewhere like the competitive spirit comes out in people if, to get like I wouldn't say it's any t-shirt. And that's why I think the Weekender is powerful because like a Weekender t-shirt, it's like we didn't have a ton of them. Our
No.
budget was not huge. And I remember that it was like we guarded them, especially like the special ones. I couldn't find it. Matt Ceruti has it somewhere, and I know it's in the attic. But my favorite one was like a green St. Patrick's Day. It was like a baseball shirt, and there
Yeah.
was a big Celtic
Yep.
W. I think Nicole DePaulo might have designed that. And
Nicole DePaulo. Yeah, I remember her. She was a designer when I was an intern.
yeah, and she's like, I think she's like Joe was saying she's like a published author now, and
Really?
I mean, yeah, and I have like I feel like so we all kind of got like those same, you know, scrappy, underdog start, at the weekend. It was like a little, it seemed like little, but it got to be really huge, and then everybody went in so many cool directions, like you were saying, like either stayed in publishing or entertainment. And then some people like did completely different things. And I think it's kind of exciting to see like um where people end up. But um
Is there more?
oh, what's that?
Is there more here?
Oh yeah. So okay, so not you specifically. So the one event that I was gonna say, I know how we gave things away. So the Weekender Deck series we came up with because it's what like warm here for like 2 hours in
Yeah.
Northeastern. And so everybody wants to go to the outside bars. And I remember we sat around thinking, like, what can we do? And like, we got the idea, like, now you see them, it'll have like all the locations. Like, I think they used to have them at the shore, like all the bars, the locations and the sponsors on the back. And so we came up with this, we got sponsors and we came up with the summer deck series, but we were like, oh, how can we make it fun? And I
Pass the
just
fruit.
remember, like, I think it was this joke. Like, we're like, okay, well, we have to make it. How could it be a summer deck party? And we're like, we need to do like games that you would play at your like family reunion. And, so we're like, egg toss. And everybody was like, no one will do an egg toss. So then we got to like hula hoop. And we're like, everybody do hula hoop. And Shelby, I have to say, like, can you see Rachel in the top
Yep.
picture here? So Shelby is she's in this picture somewhere. I think she's below down here. But she was like the star hula hooper. So if ever we couldn't get people going, like she could just hula hoop for like 3 days. Like that was like a huge like I could not do the hula hoop really well. But we did. So we're like, okay, hula hoop, limbo, easy enough. And then somehow we came up with pass the fruit. And I
Yep.
feel like was that one of your jobs to go get fruit like
Yep.
before the
I
event?
I would I would get the corporate card and I would have to go buy fruit, bananas, pineapples, I think it was. Then smaller pieces like oranges or whatever.
Yeah, kiwi, really small.
Kiwi, yes. Yep. Yeah.
My
I
favorite
mean,
one was, do you remember? I don't know if it was like, it was probably like a new fruit. Like you probably had to get it at like Wegmans, but it was like the horned melon. It was like orange and it had all these bumps. And I remember that like thinking like, oh, this will be fun. And like people would get hurt. Like they would be like, it was almost like a cactus, right?
yeah.
But I mean, people, you could see these people with the banana
Yeah.
and I mean it was just like really, it was just fun. And people, and some, I mean a lot of people didn't know each other, so it was almost like a match, you know people could match up, but you could, for that one you could win like concert tickets to Montage.
Right. Right. You know what's funny
So
too? Like I'm looking at these pictures now in the state we're in. And this is like, transmission of the virus to its fullest extent.
I know it's like it
There's
was
people
it's
there's people for those of you listening, there's people passing fruit with their necks. And there's people having a good time. I miss those days.
yep.
E- e-
And
Even when things were not full of COVID. I mean, stuff like this does not happen anymore.
no, it was definitely like a time when I don't know, like it was, I think people were just up to, up for a lot of fun. Like I don't think everybody, because there wasn't, I mean, I would say some of it, right? Would you think that some of it was because there wasn't like social media yet?
Hmm.
Because, other than the Weekender, like this was kind of like social media, but we didn't put captions, like we didn't put people's names. But I feel like it was like you either were excited that you got your picture in the look what you
Oh
missed
yeah.
section,
Well,
or you were like, don't take my picture.
yeah, and that's you got that a lot too. Like I'm not supposed to be here. Like, don't take my picture. But Yeah, I mean, like the Weekender was the social media. The Weekender told you like what was going on where, and then like you were able to see like, oh man, like I wanted to go to that part or that deck series last Friday and I didn't go, but here's a bunch of pictures and look what I missed.
And yeah, and it really, I think people were like, so okay, so now I have, since we're talking about Weekender being like the first social media. So when I was talking to Shelby and Joe, we kind of came up with things, and I'll credit them for like the stuff that they gave, but like you should talk to them. We were saying like I begged them to come on with me. I thought it'd be funny because we were like they were like both like associate editors together when
Right.
I was GM, but Shelby was there before me. Like I walked in, and I mean, it's always tough when like the new regime takes over. Like I'm not sure everybody's always wants to leave, and it's tough. So I feel like, you know, I will say I want to say this: the people who came before me when I launched, when Joe and because Joe Student actually moved to Philly, and our one intern, Margot Christensen, she was a Weekender intern from Scranton, and she came down to Philly when we were down there. To Philly Edge was the name of our paper down there. And
Mhm.
I always had respect just even passing it out on the corner, like the Weekender. But when we launched it, as a team, like I had never made a distribution route and like hired people to like drive, do the distribution. And I mean, came up with the logo, like Joe Student came up with the logo for Philly Edge. And I feel like it was like the whole team, even just hiring people, no one knew what the hell it was, right? Down in Philly Edge. And so it was like when I got to the Weekender, when you walked in somewhere and said, like, oh, hey, I'm with the Weekender, like it was like 85% chance that people knew what you were talking about, right?
Mhm.
But in Philly, like in the suburbs, like people were just like, who the hell are you? Right. And like, you have to be like at the Turkey Hill, like, hey, can we bring this here every Wednesday? And I think just because we wanted to continue like the hellish Tuesday, Wednesday theme, like we had the same deadlines. But so when we were down there, I mean, the one of the first things that struck me was like how hard that had to be for the first Weekender, like the first teams, the people who launched it, and then like maybe the first like I don't know, like the first like 5 years at least, I would
Yeah.
say, and even like right before I got there, like I know Tom Oberzit was the GM before me. And I mean, he launched a paper in Allentown afterward. And so I feel like, you know, it's almost like you want to do that. Like you want to be like, can I do this like from scratch? And it's hard. Like it's so hard because people are like, I don't know who you are. I've never heard of this paper. And I mean, it took us a while in Philly, but I felt like we did crazy things, kind of like the Weekender, like one. And so one time we got our intern, and I was thinking this would have been perfect for you, John. Our intern there sang the national anthem at like a AAA baseball game, and we were handing out like the prototype. It wasn't even the real paper, and I thought like, I bet the Weekender interns would have loved to sing the
Yeah.
national
Oh,
anthem.
if you asked me to do that, that's probably when I would have like quit my unpaid internship.
She was, I
Like,
mean,
nope.
it's yeah, I wouldn't do it either. I mean, I don't I mean, I used to do, I mean, don't tell my dad, but I used to have to do like a shot before I got up to introduce a band. Like I'm not like I talk a lot, but I'm really not like a person who like wants to get up on stage, or I mean, God forbid sing, and
It's
definitely
not easy.
no, definitely not.
I mean, I've done it probably 1,000 times, and I'm still uh, it's not something I want to do.
But some people live for. I mean, honestly, some people are like naturals. And I remember when I came back from Philly and I was working in Clark Summit at the Abington Journal. It was like a community weekly, and we would have a best of the Abingtons, which was like the Weekenders Reader's Choice. And I called Rachel one day. She was working in marketing at the TL Times Leader and also GM of the Weekender. And I was like, hey, can you do me a big favor? Can you like wear something cool and come up and MC the best of the Abingtons? And she was like, why? I'm like, because I hate doing it. Like I love the people and I would walk around all night. I would take pictures and I like to like, give out their awards, but I just really hate like the microphone thing. So when you have that giant microphone, even though you're not in singing the national anthem, I'm impressed because
Does it
that's
make you nervous? Does the microphone make you nervous?
yeah, I definitely
Well,
it's a little nerve wracking.
well, you're the second person who has commented on my large microphone.
It's
Tiffany Stein.
significant. It's significant in size, John.
Tiffany.
Um,
That's the first time anyone's ever told me that.
see, now I feel weird because you were like the intern when I was there. It seems like wrong to say that.
Well, well, that's
Um,
fine. It's like you don't have to tell me how old you are unless you want to.
yeah, I'll think about it.
All right, because I just like it's funny how like when time goes on and like I was just like timid, like young intern. I was like very well, I wasn't outgoing at all, and I just viewed you guys because you had full-time jobs running this cool paper, and I was like like I just had you guys on this like this level, and not that I don't still hold you guys to a high standard because I definitely do, but like it's cool that like we can like talk about just life now and not be
Yeah.
like you're my boss and I gotta like listen to what you say and it's
Yeah, you can hang up. You can mute me at any time tonight, John. You got the power.
I could do that, can't I? Yeah.
Don't mute me, please.
No,
My
I would
my
never do
husband
that.
and my daughter, like I think, do that to me like a lot.
No, I would never.
Okay, so I have to go back. So trends. So the Weekender, social media. So Shelby and Joe, we were talking about all the things that the Weekender was, ahead of the trends on. And so one thing, so when I was there, one of the things I started, they had food reviews for sure. Like they did wing reviews, and I know Tom did like under $5, like cheap lunch kind of thing. But I wanted us to do like a kind of like a sit down places, and we came up with the idea of having it be like a mystery person. And I didn't ask permission from all the people who were Mr. Ladle. It was spelled weird. It wasn't like a ladle that it was Laedel, but like so many different people did it. But for the first like couple people who did it, I would go along because I would, pay for it with the company card. And my job was to take our digital camera and take pictures of the food. But like nobody was doing like food selfies. Shelby and I were talking about that, like food selfies. Everybody takes pictures of their dinner and stuff. Nobody did that. So I used to have to honestly, and I've already told you that I hate to sing. So I used to have to sit there and pretend it was like Mr. Ladle person I was with birthday. And I'd be like pretending to sing happy birthday and taking pictures, like pull the camera out, take pictures of the food.
Oh, geez.
And like you can't even fathom that now. Like it's like like your camera is
That's what
or
you
your
do.
phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you have pictures of everything, and so that was crazy. So I feel like we were on the Shelby said we were on the cutting edge of food selfies. Reality TV. So when I was the Weekender, it was like the first ever, I feel like Survivor, and the first ever Bachelor was while I was at the Weekender. And so we came up with like a local Bachelor, and we got like, people who were celebrities in the area. There was like I think there was like a penguin. I know there was a penguin who did Survivor, like Dennis Bonby. And I feel like we had like TV personalities and stuff. But for the Bachelor one, I remember asking like three women. One was I like TV, I think it was Jane Adonisio. One was Gus Genetti's wife, who actually I felt so sad because the picture, she died last week. I was really sad. So I was sorry. I know. And the other one was Paige Belitsky. And she does like, she's big in the theater scene, like still in Lackawanna County. And so we ran like these bachelors, and each week, we talked to like two of them, and then the moms would rank them. Like these women would be like, no, I would never let my daughter go out with him. No, he's kind of a jerk. Or like, I mean, it was funny. Like the guys put themselves up. And Survivor, it was almost like a reader vote, so like it would be each week two people, like you'd have to vote for people who you wanted to stay in the Weekender Survivor. And then at the end there was like a big party at the Woodlands. And but I always remember, I think it was down to like the Penguin and like Don Randazzo, I want to say. Like I don't want to get it wrong. I was so afraid to like get things wrong, but she was like she's in the area, and at the time she was like probably the most, she was like the mayor of the Woodlands. Like she was the bartender and everybody knew her. And so she was up against the Penguin, and I want to say I think she won. I will have to ask Don. Don, like she'll have to put a comment
I'll
on the
tag
podcast.
Don in the
Yeah, tag Don. But okay, so reality TV, the food selfie. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple crazy covers. One was, and this was Rachel Pugh's best friend, and she said that I could totally show the picture. It was liquid latex. So we did a cover on this clothing fad that was like wearing kind of like the Sports Illustrated models, you know, when they would just paint a bikini on them in the Sports Illustrated issue.
Kristie, you did major homework. I am impressed.
So there's like there's the Bachelor, and then this
what year was that? You know?
The Bachelor was definitely 1999.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like my first, like I was there in the fall of 99. So I feel like it was either 99 or like right into the beginning of 2000. And I mean, we had like swingers, but okay, so this is my favorite one over here. This is one of, it was a trend. So I had gone on vacation with my best friend to London, and when we were there, we were at a bar. So first of all, like all the beer you drink like warm in London, like room temperature. So that kind of grossed me out because I like cold beverages, right? And the one bar we went to, somebody handed us a can and they were like, oh, here, this is new, try this. And I think it was Red Bull mixed with vodka, but it tasted like Smarties and like candy. And I was just like drinking them. And the next day I was really sick. And so I come back, and like a month later, we get a call from Verastro and in the distributor, and they were like, hey, you know, Ken Cooney, I remember, was like, hey, can you guys, do you ever hear of this Red Bull? You want to do it, you know, can you run a picture of it or whatever? And we were like, I'm like, I know what that is. Wait, it's like, so Shelby, she found like, I think there was one story like in like, I don't know, Time or like, you know, like a Rolling Stone or something. And she sourced it, but she also like found a whole bunch of other sources. And the story ended up getting picked up. They paid the Times leader, like it was a website called Alternet, and they picked up our Red Bull story. But on the cover, we were like, well, we're not just going to put a can of Red Bull. So there's Mike G. He agreed to like be on a pogo stick in the parking lot. And I mean, that was just dedication, you know, to, because pogo stick, I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried. I tried it that day. Like, it's really hard.
When I was younger, yeah, I could do it, but yeah,
So
I wouldn't dare now.
No, so just trying to get him to be up on the pogo stick long enough to take the pictures was so hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was like a kind of a cool thing that like Red Bull was not even, I mean, I think it was new in the US, and our story got picked up about it. So we were like trendy. And then Shelby also said she did a story about B-Boys, which was like a troupe of like breakdancing was kind of coming back, like a resurgence. And locally, people it was all across the US, but she remembered interviewing them outside of Gold's Gym, which is like, was kind of right by Kirby Park, I think, and Amnesia.
Yeah.
It was like all there in that complex. And she was like, middle of the day, like a bunch of guys, like they were the B-Boys, they were like doing like break dance moves, and we did a story on them. And I don't know, we did speed dating. We did before there was like Match.com or anything. We used to have weekender night outs that were like speed dating.
I think I was hired full time. I feel like Rachel and I went, I want to say it was Shakers. I could be very wrong, but Jeff Walker was there with KRZ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And we did I know one was at the new staircase that was on the bypass at that time, and one was
right,
at Whistles in Scranton, which is now like Hail Marys, right?
right,
And so it was I remember begging like my friend Matt, like three people I knew. I was like, please, we don't have enough contestants. And once we get there, like I knew we could get people to do it, but we had to have a couple people who we knew would do it. And now like you see it on like sitcoms and stuff and TV shows where like, you know, the buzzer goes off and you switch tables and it so like that we kind of, you know, started we were the first people to do that in the area. And that was kind of funny. So I don't know, like I felt like we had a lot of we were ahead of our time, like the Weekender always was, you know. Restroom reviews. Who did that when they
nobody,
first
because
launched,
that's
right?
bad. That's not going to make you money. That's like
Right?
writing a bad food review and then saying, "Hey, you want to do an ad?" Not going to
Oh,
happen.
no. But you know what we did with food reviews? I remember this and it goes back to like, you know, we wanted to have like journalistic integrity. You know, like we weren't doing like investigative stories usually, but like we didn't want to be like if you buy an ad, you get a story kind of thing. Like we
Right.
would but I remember that the um my favorite thing was that the sales team and the editorial team and marketing, like everybody had one big staff meeting, right?
Hmm.
But at the daily, you know, the newsroom budget meeting, I mean, that's just newsroom, like sales, you know, salespeople aren't allowed to come up to that, right?
No.
And sales would have their own, you know, meetings and, you know, there was like a wall, right? And so I feel like that was one of the things that made the Weekenders so strong, right?
Absolutely.
Because
100%. Yeah. That's what I loved about. I mean, when I went to school for marketing, that's what I loved the most was just the collaboration between people, having different ideas and you have an idea and then I can build off that and say, yeah, we could do that. And then on top of that, we could do this. And I just think that's good for everybody. And that was such a hard thing to kind of overcome was, the sales and editorial was so much church and state.
yep,
And even though even when we tried at the Weekender to kind of combine the two, there's still a little bit of that um, barrier, so to speak. And I think that's because the people who would get into the editor roles came from the life of editorial, and sales is sales, and they
right.
don't ever mix.
Right. And I mean, I did, you know, I came from the newsroom, but you know, so I tried to be a good copy editor. Like we didn't have a lot of typos when I was there, but I really felt like there was a lot to be gained because, you know, like the sales reps, like I'm sitting at my desk like half the week, but the sales reps are out all week long. So they know like what's opening, they know like all the gossip, you know, they know like everything, like they know the bar owners really well. So they know when like there's a new bar coming to town. And I mean, they were like on the pulse, you know, like our Scranton rep, MJ Patterson, like when I got there, she had been there a while. It was her and a guy named Shorty. And that was his nickname, obviously, and another guy named Jeff Pepe. And like she had Pittston to Scranton like locked down, and we didn't even really distribute much in Scranton. Like she was the one who got like I feel like Mark's tattooing and like you know. So I I just felt like there were really good ideas that would come from the sales reps and from like marketing. And I think that you always had to like make sure that so back to food reviews. So that was really tricky because food reviews, we would try never to like go to like an advertiser's place, but they wanted like they were like, hey, why aren't you reviewing like my restaurant? You know?
Right.
And so I mean it place I mean, think about it when you go out to dinner here. I mean, how often do you get something like awful, right? It was not often, right? People
Right.
care about their businesses and stuff. But I remember for some reason it was like the sandwich one was always like the lunch one was like the bane of my existence because you know, sometimes the sandwich shops would come and go, like delis and stuff. And I remember like there was this one advertiser and like I was like, hey, you know what? Like let's just order lunch from there on Tuesday. Like you guys did that when on Tuesday you would order lunches together and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Or dinner.
Or dinner. Yeah, because you couldn't leave your desk on Tuesday. And so I can't remember which rep it was, but I feel like it was a guy or maybe not. And they went and got like lunch for all of us, and like it was really gross, and the stuff was just bad. And so that was when I came up with the policy, which this was my policy. I don't know if it stayed this way, but my policy was you had to, if it was bad, they got 2 shots. So like if it was really bad, that you were gonna, I mean, if it was like mediocre, you would give it like mediocre stars. But if it was really bad, they would get 1 more shot. And then we would really say that it was really bad. So I feel like we lost a couple delis along the way. Or like, I don't know. And the sales rep, I remember, would be in my office like, you can't print this. And I would be like, I am so sorry. Because you know me, like I would feel terrible. I would be like, I'll call them tomorrow. Like, I'm really sorry, but we have to run it because their food was bad, you know,
Yeah.
and it was cold, or it was like a bug in the salad or something, you know, gross. But I mean,
I think that's one thing people are afraid to do now is, be honest about, food or cleanliness or whatever it is.
yeah,
There's definitely not people doing that. And then, I mean, people who are doing it, they're doing it via Facebook or on Yelp, and they're
right.
behind a keyboard to do it. Um, that's one thing I struggle with in general, and that's not just any PA, but I think it's just across the board. Is like people who are afraid to be honest about the experiences because they don't want to offend anybody. They don't, and especially now in today's world, it's like if you do that, you can get canceled.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of, I feel like that's something that was always there, but I feel like because, you know, I mean, it's sort of sad, like the situation that like newspaper and media and stuff is in. So like it's much harder, I would
Hmm.
think, to be, you know, radio. Like it's just
Yeah,
harder to like
you can't
to
do it.
run any kind of business like that.
Yeah, you can't risk the the backlash.
No. But then okay, so then I had to tell you, so before I show you the one last, it was the liquid latex picture. I didn't show the local person. Like this girl wasn't Rachel's friend. This was like a
Oh,
wire
okay.
picture. So the one thing that I remember about the Weekender, and honestly, like everybody I talked to, like Rachel said it and Shelby said it and Joe and you know, my friend Melissa Miner and like just like all these people, if you worked at the Weekender, pretty much like everybody except your parents was going to do stuff for the Weekender. Like, and sometimes your parents, like you'd beg them to come to an event at like a restaurant if it wasn't going to be crowded. Not mine, but like, I mean, so people like just like you said, they had that little red, they bled like little red W's, and they would just bribe like everybody they knew to do crazy things. So Rachel's friend, I wasn't there very long, and her friend um would see this green, her picture's like below it, but I kind of cropped it off for her. But she let us like go to her house and like try out this liquid latex. And like my friend, I have to admit, the photographer we brought was a woman because we just didn't want everybody to feel
Right.
like uncomfortable.
That's Vicky, right?
Yeah, it's Vicky. And I asked
Hold on,
Rachel
hold
if
on,
I
hold
could.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. This is crazy. That, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I really am. That girl in the
Bathing
two,
suit.
yes, that is I guess my sister-in-law.
Come on.
Yeah, that's her name's Lisa.
Yeah.
Holy shit. We've my wife's brother, that's his wife. She, when I first met their family, this is going back 12, 13 years ago now, and like it's always the same thing. What do you do, or what have you done, the blah blah. And when I said I was, because when I met Amanda, I was still at the Weekender. She's like, "Oh my god, I was on the cover of a Weekender, and this is the one."
Is this it? Are you kidding
Holy
me,
shit!
John? And you know, like you didn't even know that I was bringing
I had
pictures.
no
Except
idea.
for, I told you I had surprises, but I
Oh
mean,
my goodness!
I
Oh,
brought you.
I cannot wait to tell her about
This
this.
is, and so, well, the funny thing is, the other girl, Megan, she was our staff
Staff
writer
writer,
at
yeah.
one point, Megan Rollins, and
Yep.
she's like digital media now. You know, she's a great writer. And but the person who took the picture, uh, Megan did not want to be in this picture, but the person who took it was like my really like one of my best friends. She was an intern. She was, I think, one of our first photography interns, and her name's Danielle Antonello Smalley. And she takes pictures for like Mohegan Sun. I mean, she goes like up and down the East Coast. She does like photography for like, she has her own business, and she's incredible. But she was our first intern, and she went to school for photography in Philly. And um so she and Megan were like best friends. And so we had to do this summer picture, and I was like, Danielle was like, you know, Megan, please, like we were all begging, like you guys have to find us some people. So that was a kiddie pool, number one. It might look like a really cool luxury swimming pool, but it was like one of those little blow up kiddie
Oh
pools.
yeah, I thought it was
I
like
think
a tube.
yeah, that was on the budget. We got that on the budget. And then like, so the one above that, I can't believe you know that person, John. I
I
can't believe
can't
that's your
I cannot believe this because like when she told me this story, like, oh, I was, and I don't remember if I just saw that cover just going through the archives by accident, or if I'm just, she told me about this. I'm actually texting her right now.
That's insane. Well, I'll give you this. I'll send it to you in a Dropbox, the
No,
PowerPoint.
no, that's so funny. That's amazing. Like, I like this is why I absolutely love doing this right now. Just because I mean, there's stuff that happens like this that I'm like, wow.
That's so that was the other thing I was thinking about the other night, that like, you know, Northeast PA, and I mean, I'm sure everybody says this about where they live, but like, I think like Northeast PA is like somehow like a weird, like that, you know, 6 degrees of, you know, separation, because we were on our honeymoon in Rome, and we met like a couple from, um, I think they lived in Philly, but they were originally from, it was like an older couple. They were originally from here. I mean, I've been like really random places, and someone will say like, oh yeah, you know, when I something about like a brewing, like Lion Brewery, or like, you know what I mean, just like just a church, or like a church picnic, or I mean, people are from like, people from Northeast PA do a lot of cool things, but like, I mean, they find each other
Yeah,
everywhere, I guess, is
it's
my point. And
you're
then,
right.
so the tattoo, it was like Ink in the Valley. That was when we used to have like the big tattoo conferences would come here, and that was one of our staffers, and the tattoo at the bottom was like her real tattoo, but
Real tattoo,
obviously
yeah.
the Weekender one we painted on her. And then like, I'm kind of partial to the one on the top because that was my husband, not Ceruti. But there's a funny story with that one. So when we didn't have, like, we had you know, Michael was like graphic designer, but he was in charge of like all of the ads in the whole, you know, magazine. And at one point it was like, and Joe reminded me of this. So one of the things I was really proud of was, while I was there, we hit like 96 pages and like 100 pages and stuff. And so that was when I got there, we were like 64 pages, pretty solid all the time. I mean, I don't know, I'm not being competitive. I don't know what it was when you were there. You don't have to tell me.
Oh,
But
we were rocking around 98 or so.
yeah, so I mean, that was like exciting. But that was a lot of ads. So Michael was pretty busy. And so the cover, you know, we would just be like, what are we going to do for the cover? So I remember my first couple months, I mean, it was like a big stressor. Like, you'd be like, who's going to take the picture, you know? So I started really like hiring a lot of like freelance photographers. But there were weeks that like we either didn't have the budget, the photographer was busy, or, you know, we just didn't know what to take a picture of, you know. So we did some illustrations and things like that. But this particular week, it was like a country music concert that was going to be up at the arena. I feel like it was like Brooks and Dunn. Like, it was big. It was like some Wild West, like it was all these acts. And we were just like, we just didn't want to run a picture of, you know, nothing against Brooks and Dunn, but like, you know, it wasn't like it was, you know, they weren't young, let's say. They weren't like in their 20s. And so we were like, we didn't want to run a picture of that. And so we're like, what are we going to do? And so they were like, we'll take care of this. Like, don't worry about it. And Matt's like, Joe's like, come on, Matt and we're gonna go take this picture. And so they literally went to the Kmart on the west side, and there was a tiny horse that you put like the quarters in, like kids ride it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I to this day I don't know if they went to like the Halloween store and got that vest, because Matt Ceruti does not own that vest, but like he does have, that was his hat. And that was like a work shirt. Like I think he was wearing like a work shirt. And so Joe said the two of them, they still would talk about like the crazy looks that they got. Like this guy with like a big, Nikon or Canon, it was a Canon, taking pictures of like another guy like wearing like a cowboy suit on like a kiddie ride outside the Kmart parking lot. But then the people who saw them and were kind of like, what's going on there? When they saw the cover of the Weekender, they were probably like, I saw them take that picture. So I don't know. There were like, people would do, and I mean, I know I'm talking a lot about Michael, but I have to tell this because I thought it was like a really, like a diehard kind of like you would do anything for the Weekender. But then when I was talking to Shelby, she remembered the whole thing. She remembered like everything, like what time we left the building and stuff. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't just me. But so Michael, he would do all those ads. He was so busy. He did like all the design for a while, and he was just dedicated. I mean, like that guy, I mean, he would be at his desk. He never got up. So he drank a lot of like brown soda, like Coke. And now now that like dark soda can cause kidney stones, but like people just get kidney stones. Like my dad had them. He never drank soda. My best friend had them a couple years ago, and she told me it was like more painful than giving birth to her son. And so, but I didn't know a lot about kidney stones, but I knew that like Michael, like he would just be like hunched over, and he was like in a lot, like at some point, like this went on, like I felt like it started Monday, but he always had like pain from kidney stones and stuff. But that Monday, it was like starting. And so by Tuesday morning, I walked over and I'm like, hey, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm good. At one point, he was like literally like jaundiced. Like his color was so bad. He looked like his head, he was like taking breaks. And I went over to like Shelby and like Joe and like our team, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like he won't go home. And I remember like us all being like, but thank God, because we don't know how to do we don't know how to do his job. And so like that was job security, right? But at some point I called his mom. I was like, you need to come and get him. And like they took him to the ER, but before he left, so we had like 25 minutes until they got to the Weekender from Nanacoke. Like Michael was just like, you guys like don't know what to do. And we were like, we can't have the Weekender not come out. So I swear it's somewhere up in my room, in my attic or my basement, was like a sheet. Like I was like scribbling, like, okay, if it's an odd numbered page, do this. And if it's an even numbered page, and like Shelby and Joe and I mean, I remember like the whole team, like, so poor Michael, goes to the ER. He definitely, I don't know if he had surgery. We'll have to follow up with him, because I apologize. I just know that like I called his mom, but he was staying. Like, what kind of dedication is that? Like you're like gonna pass out from like, he really was gonna pass out from like kidney stones, and you're staying there to put the Weekender out. But so we were all just like, we loved him, and we're not like mean people. So we're like, you gotta go. And then as soon as he walked out, we were just like, oh my God, like we can't not have the Weekender come out. And Shelby told me, because I remembered like you were supposed to put it to bed before the daily paper, like way before. Like the Weekender was supposed to be done at like 8:00 at the very latest. But we were always pushing it because we were late, probably because of me. But like we would be sometimes like 10, 11, and like the newsroom and like the press guys we were right by the press guys in our building. And they would come out and be like, hey, how's it looking? Like, this is bad. You guys need to wrap it up. And like the composing room, like production department, like everybody would be like mad. That night, the next day, Shelby told me, she confirmed, because I just thought it was like middle of the night. She said that we left there at 7:30 in the morning. So like, I don't even know how it got printed, to be honest, but it came out on Wednesday. Wow. Like it came out. And so, I mean, I remember like we were just like, whatever we have to do, like we're not leaving until this gets done. But I mean, it was because we also wanted to like do it in honor of Michael because he was gonna like pass out at his desk from kidney stones. So I mean, that was like, I mean, people would just do like really like anything. I felt like you would do it. And our one, so Shelby, we were also talking, her one boyfriend, we made him dress up like Santa Claus for a weekend or Christmas party at Tink's. And like Tink's is really hot. It was really hot. You know, it's like it was like, you know, a club in Scranton. And like we're like right next to the ale house now. And no one wanted to do it. Like we had a Santa suit and we're like begging everybody, no one would do it. So we literally just bought him shots of Jameson like the whole night so that he would like, he was like the jolliest Santa. He was like,
I
come sit
bet.
on my lap, you know, taking pictures. But like, it took a lot of like, I don't know what Shelby had to like promise that he would, you know, that he would do that. Um,
You
and
don't want
I
to
like,
know.
no. And I remember too, just like random things like we talked about like I would have to like do a shot before I like but this is like a really embarrassing thing about me. So I had probably never, so I was like 20, no, I was 30. I don't think I had ever gone to like a bar alone. Like I
Oh,
have an only child.
you were 30. What year was this?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm so bad at math. I can't
Uh,
remember. But I remember that I was like, I can't believe that I've never been to like, I've never really walked in a bar myself. Like maybe if I was meeting like one of my friends or something, like because when I worked night shift, I would always have to meet. I would go there myself because I worked until like midnight or 1 on the copy desk. But you know, like the sports guys would be there or like my roommates would be there. I'd be like begging everybody, like, don't go home. Just let me come out for like a half an hour and get like one drink. And so I realized that I hadn't gone to, so I decided that I was gonna do these bar reviews for the weekender. And for whatever reason, we would skip like Luzerne County, Lackawanna County, and I was going to go to Scranton by myself and walk, you know, like a block and a half to get to the bar. But it wasn't even any of that. Like I wasn't like afraid of like walking in the dark. It was like literally walking into the bar myself. So I remember begging Shelby, like she had like I don't know, something really early the next morning, and I was like, just come for like half an hour and meet me in Scranton. She was like, I'll come for 15 minutes. And so I did the bar review of the Bog. That was like my Scranton like first bar I ever walked in alone, but I wasn't because Shelby was meeting me. And I met like Brian Craig and Rudy and Bob. And like I just remember like I didn't know anyone in Scranton. You know, I was from Wilkes-Barre and, you know, Hazleton before that. So Scranton was, you know, that regional thing.
oh
I
yeah.
mean, now I feel like you know, everywhere, but it was like, it was pretty intimidating. And like the Bog, you know, that's like a hipster, you know, kind of like everybody's cool and like jukebox is cool and like everybody knows everybody. And I remember like sitting at the bar with Shelby and she's like, all right, your 15 minutes are up, friend. I'm leaving. And I was just like, oh my God, like I didn't take any pictures yet. I don't know anybody. And she was like, you can do this. I have faith in you. And like then that night, like before we left, like I ended up like, you know, getting to be friends with the guys and they end up hanging my bar review on the wall. And like, I mean, it was just like I went there, you know, you know, obviously it's really sad because Brian's gone. And I just remember like, you know, spending a good portion of my adult, like, not, you know, life going out, you know, with my friends or my, you know, Matt. And I mean, we would go there on a date night, like after I had my baby, like we would go to like Scranton, go to dinner and go to the Bog. And my one best friend, Alex Seeley, we would meet there sometimes. And so I just think like if I had never worked at the Weekender, I may have never gone into the Bog and I may have never met like all those cool, amazing people. And, um, you know, I feel like it gave me like a purpose to do it. And then I started doing like all these, you know, barfly, we called it. And I used to just do all these and just walk up to strangers. And I wasn't drinking because I was working. And I would be like, so what's your favorite thing about this bar? Like corner bars and like hole in the wall bars, and like it wasn't like always the bigger bars. It was kind of like smaller bars to be like, and take a picture and say like, what do you like about coming here, and like what's their best food? Like do they have good wings, or what's their favorite? Who's the bartender? And so I just remember like the Weekender gave me like this burst of courage because I just like I had to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what it did for me too. Really, I mean, and that's kind of what this is all about. Is just that it's this thing, this Entertainment Weekly, catapulted all of us to, I think places we never thought were even possible.
you
And
know,
it's always a common theme with everyone that I've been talking to, and I'm sure it's going to be consistent, all the way through. It's just like the Weekender was this special place, and we said before, it it was work, but it never felt like it. Never.
I don't know if I'm gonna have the picture on my PowerPoint. I know it's on my phone. I took a picture of the ballot, like when you're saying it was work, because I remember Tiffany saying like I don't want to talk about, and you talking about like Reader's Choice. Shelby said the same thing. She would like take this binder home and just say to her boyfriend or like her sister, like, hey, we've got to count ballots tonight. And like, I would do it. Like, it went from interns. Like, I think that was the coolest part is like, whether you were an intern or like general manager, like you were taking home ballots to count
Right.
at night, because we'd have like 1,000 of them and there was no like online voting. There was barely online.
Yeah. It was probably more than that. It was, and for anyone who thinks that we didn't literally and physically count those ballots, we did. We counted every single one,
We
and
did.
but even those, like I remember when this is 2006. It was my first Reader's Choice as a full time employee. We were at Rachel's house. It was me, Tiffany Stein, Katie, Janelle, the whole gang, and we were at Rachel's house having beers and wine and counting the ballots. Like we made the best of it. I mean,
Yep. Well, because people cared. I mean, people cared enough because I remember we made it a rule that you had to like do at least, I'm going to see if I can make it big enough on my phone. You had to do at least like 10 or 20. I don't know. I don't know if you remember that, but like you had to do at least a certain amount of, you had to vote for in certain amount of categories.
right. Yeah.
And
For it to count in general.
yeah. And, and I don't know if you, oh, I can't, I'll send it to you and I'll text
Yeah.
it to you. You can like,
Text it to me. And
but it's like the actual ballot. And I remember like, plus it was like taking a big risk because the ballot, like people could fill in anything. Like they could fill in somebody that didn't exist, or they could, you know, and obviously like when people won, like, so my favorite part, and I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but like, and not that many people now because like obviously a lot of the places aren't necessarily even open, but I used to sign them all by hand, like the certificates. Did you do that when you were there?
sign them.
I would sign the
Well,
certificates
yeah,
like after.
yeah, up until I forget what year we started. So I remember you guys would literally sign them like every single one to the point where your
Every
hand was
single
going to
one.
fall off.
It was.
We got smarter, or we had the technology in later years. I was fortunate. I only had to sign one year, but we signed one signature, and then the designer was able to take that and just kind of put that
Oh,
different.
right. Yep.
We just
Like,
printed it like that.
well, it was, I mean, but it's kind of funny because like now if I'm and it hardly ever happens, but I'll be somewhere and I'll see it on the wall, like hanging the plaque still. And I'll like take picture, like I'll be like ready to cry. Like, I can't believe you still have that hanging on the wall. And it will be someone I don't know. Like it will be like a restaurant or something that I don't know. So, but I remember like those Reader's Choice. Um, I felt like that was definitely work, but it was one of those things of like, it was fun work, right?
Well, the worst part, and I'm looking at the image you sent me. This is a ballot that we printed on the pages of the Weekender, and it would just like
It was like a fold, the centerfold, like it would
yeah,
run
but
the
like
centerfold.
so people would physically write them like in on this paper and mail it to us,
Hmm.
but
Or
then
drop it off. in the box.
we're trying to read what people wrote. That was a challenge in itself because
At a
yeah.
bar when they might have been like, maybe not necessarily in the good shape to write.
Oh, and it's funny you say bars. Like bars would actually like they take the stacks weekender. They would take that center part out, and they'd
Yep.
actually say, "Hey, bar patron, if you don't mind, please fill this out and mention us for best bar or whatever it was."
Yep.
But people, yeah, I mean, it was an honor, like for the weekender to to get
Hmm.
the award. Um, it was such I think a respected paper, and I think that was because the people that worked for it were so respected as well because
And
we put
yep.
everything we had into it.
Yeah, and I think about like always the weekender boxes would get like low. There wouldn't be out on the streets. There wouldn't be that many weekenders or like at the bars because they didn't get huge stacks. But I remember like when it was Reader's Choice, like you couldn't find a weekender anywhere
No,
because everybody was like scooping them out of the boxes to take them to their bars or like you said, just having them. Um, okay, so this is my next picture. So local music is like one of the things, so this was like concert for a cause, which was concert for Karen at the time. There's a picture of Tin Pan Alley here. It was like a popular band on the cover. And we did this. Jim Gavanis took that one. It was like on the Casey Hotel was torn down in Scranton. And honestly, I don't think I can take any credit for that idea. Like I feel like it was Jim or Joe or whatever, or in the band, and like +3. But then like we had this thing called band boxes.
hmm
And I don't know, you guys still had that when you were there,
yeah,
right?
we discussed it. I forget if talked about it with Leslie or maybe it was Jane. I forget, but yeah, because I was like, yeah, bands actually spent money in the paper. We would do it once a month, and they would advertise their entire monthly schedule.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, I mean, it wasn't like majorly expensive. We gave the bands a special rate, but I mean, bands didn't have any money. There was like, it was expensive to, I mean, some of them, were doing great, but like still, like they all had like probably like day jobs and you know what I mean? And so, like, I had to say some of the names of these bands, like, because people can't see them,
I
but
was gonna
like,
say, yeah, please do.
yeah, like 40 Pound Head and Tin Pan Alley, Negative Space, Dashboard Mary, The Collective, right? They were on the cover. I couldn't find their cover. Wake
Dashboard.
Up Naked, Gunner, Cartoon, Dead Porn Stars, .10, Burn, Simon Says, Crush. So Bad Hair Day, I had to say this. They won, I think they won a contest because they were like in 80s, they did 80s. And I was asking Shelby and we couldn't remember. We were sad that we couldn't remember. They played at the Stone Pony because Bon Jovi's from New Jersey and like I
Right.
don't remember what the whole thing was, but it ended up being on the cover and like Jim Gavanis came with us. We went on the road. Shelby like interviewed people and at the Stone Pony. I mean, I feel like, we were like the bands, it's hard to like imagine now because like hardly there's not a lot of places for bands to play. So they're doing different things.
Right.
But I mean, they were like not only local celebrities. I mean, they were like doing big things. And I mean, I have obviously it was later down the road, but I mean, like we had Breaking Benjamin on the cover before they were like, we would go to the Voodoo Lounge, like they would have their, nights out. And I mean, I remember like Joe Student like interviewing them and stuff. And like, I don't know. So I just feel like we were dedicated, like as much as readers were dedicated, as much as we were dedicated to the readers, like the bands and the bars. I mean, they were really dedicated. They were loyal. You know what I
hmm
mean? Like there were people who ran like, like maybe like a 50 or $100 ad like every week from the day that the paper started. Like on page 2, like there were
Yep.
people that got special and and so we would, I mean, obviously there was like the huge, bars that had like the full pages, Tinks and the Woodlands and Banana Joe's and like, you know, Arena Bar and Grill and like that Amnesia we talked about. I don't know who were some of the big ones but like there were like diehards like Bruise Brothers they had this spot and people paid extra for like special spots. Like the Woodlands always had page 3, but like Bruise Brothers was like below Coors Live, which
Right.
was like I think that was the reason half the people, like, I'm not even gonna kid myself, like not something I wrote or that was on the cover. The Coors Live listing of where to go, what entertainment was at each bar every night of the week. I think that was like, that people just would, I still today, Rich House has that, NEPA scene. There's definitely like entertainment websites that are really thorough, but like it was just like a massive list of like if you wanted to go out on Monday night,
Yep. Who was playing where? Yeah. And that was like for the bars, that was added value. That was like, and then a lot of bars were like, yeah, how do I get in Coors Live? And it was like,
yeah,
just do an ad. Doesn't matter what size you do, just do an ad and you're going to be in there.
yeah.
And it went from like a half page, I think, to eventually a full page, or maybe it was always a full page. But I
No,
mean,
it wasn't when I was there. It was half page. Yeah,
okay,
so
yeah. So
that's
it eventually
awesome.
went to a full page, and then like that was a left hand read, and then we
Yeah.
sold um, the page next to it, which is called the right hand read. We had nightcaps as a half page. Bought it, premium rate every week.
Yeah. It was you would see people driving around on the seat of their car. It was like, or you would be out to eat and you'd see people like, that was always my favorite. I would try to take pictures if I saw people read it out at a bar, like, and I don't know, but I feel like the Coors Live and just like the entertainment. And we would have, I feel like I think it was Simon Says. We had some band that we did for the St. Patrick's Day parade that like we rode on the float with them and they played. And actually, I think that my husband and Joe Student were both saying like that they remember that they still hate the song Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous because that was the song that the band played like the whole time. They had like 3 songs in rotation. So you're kind of like freezing and then but they were great. Because think about how hard it is to play. I don't play the guitar. I play the piano. You're not going to put a piano on a flatbed, but like you couldn't like how do you even stay standing? If you're playing like the guitar or the drums or you're the lead singer. So that was like I don't know, like the bands and the bars were like, and the restaurants. I don't know. They were like super super supportive. They kept it alive. And I have to say this because he's no longer with us, but like Justin McCarthy, like he
Oh
had the
yeah.
bar on Northampton, and I'll never forget because sometimes it was really easy, like back to the events, like nights out, right? Like you would go to like I don't know, like a bigger who like one of your advertisers, think about it, and like there was already probably a band playing, so you could get the band to give away T-shirts from the stage, or you could do like you know, there was already a big crowd, right?
Right.
But sometimes the smaller bars, like when they got a weekend or night out, like they wanted, they were thinking you were going to bring like a lot of people. And so you had to kind of think about what you were going to do at each venue when you had your event, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember like the sales rep, it could have been Rachel, I'm not sure, but I remember like um it might have been Shorty saying like that Justin, the McCarthys wanted to do an event. So I remember going there with, my boyfriend at the time. And we walked in and like that night, it was oldies karaoke with Gentleman Jim. It was Justin's dad. So like the audience was definitely an older crowd. And I looked at him and I'm like, I don't know what kind of event like we can do because I think people who were like 16 to like 100 read The Weekender, don't get me wrong, but like you had to really think about your target audience and like how could we get like a crowd that was our age. So I was really nervous and I met Justin and he was just like, well, I had this one idea for this thing, like I have like a guitar and I have like one of my beer, vendors. And would you guys ever consider doing like a songwriters contest? And like, we ended up we did it for like several years. The place would be packed, like people coming out the sides, and like, you know, it was original. So it wasn't covers or anything. And people would get up there, and like there were some really, you know, maybe people who were in like a band would go, and like Kate, I remember Kate, I think won the one year. But like, people were just like writing like original songs and like getting up there and singing them, and like the place was, you couldn't move, you know what I mean? So it was like, even like a tiniest bar, like people had passion for their bars, and like they had passion for music. And like I still remember like Justin, I mean, he was in my wedding like years later. He was like the greatest guy. And he always had like a great idea like for music. He'd be like, "Oh, you don't even have to do this here, but like I was thinking like this would be a fun contest." And like it was that kind of like, people were just committed to it.
Yeah, it was a special place.
It was.
And it's
um,
it's sad to like go through and we mentioned Justin obviously passed away. Brian Craig passed away a year and a half ago or so. It's sad to go, to look back on those things and not have them here.
yeah, it absolutely is. But I think that like they have like a legacy, from the kind of people that they were first
Oh,
off,
100%.
and I think that like you know, they just made a difference. And I think that, people, they were really respected. I mean, I hope that one day when I'm not around, as many people, like I remember going to like both of their, wakes and everything. And like, I mean, people outside like for hours, and like playing music, and like hugging, and like talking about all the awesome things that they did. I mean, they were just like, both of those people were really quality people.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to know both of them.
Yeah, I met Justin a few times. I think I was like a fill-in for his ads when we were between reps. Um, but I mean, I knew Brian, and what a terrible. I mean, they're both obviously terrible losses, but Brian was. I remember I was hosting a showcase at Carl Hall the day that he passed, and I was a mess. Um, I think I cried in the green room a few times just because, like, I just as a father, like, I knew what a great person he was, and he was even a better father. And for me, like, to know that, like, his son was robbed of him, and his wife was robbed of him, and
Yeah.
you know, I'll be okay. But I just felt terrible that his family was robbed of him, and
The last time I saw him, um, I remember it was at the bog, and we talked about for like probably like 45 minutes was our kids. And he's like, "Oh, my son needs to meet Gigi. Like they sound like they would be like best friends." And I thought the same thing as you, like, because you think about like a parent, like I'm sure that was probably one of the hardest things for him, like thinking, you're not
yeah,
going to be there.
yeah,
And but I mean, I always try to think about my mom died when I was working at the Weekender. And I think about how, it kind of like inspires you to like share their story. So I bet there's tons of people who do things like in honor of Brian or Justin. And like, I mean, I remember like I wrote a column, like you could write about anything in the columns, and sometimes they were silly or whatever, but I wrote a column around Mother's Day. It was called like Moms with Moxie, and it was all about how like it wasn't Mother's Day. There was a girl who was a boxer, and she was local girl, and she a woman boxer. And so I wrote a column all about like women, and how like my mom like taught me how to play baseball from her wheelchair. She had MS, and she would pitch, from her. She taught me how to parallel park, like driving her like electric wheelchair down this, like, okay, back it up, turn the wheel. And my dad, my dad, they both cooked, but like it was the whole column was about how like women didn't have to have like a certain role. Like my mom had a business, and she and my dad, like they both cleaned. Like I grew like Matt Rudy probably hates that because like we both like he irons more than me. Like I try to buy things that you don't have to iron, but like,
Sure.
but I just remember like the point of it, and I'm like, it seems like I'm on a tangent, but the point of it was like I got so many emails when that column ran. And so I think it made me realize that like, and this is why I love your podcast, because I think that like the most basic thing you could do is be brave and put yourself out there, right? And I remember like crying when I was like writing the column, and I remember like thinking like, oh, I'm sort of embarrassed, like I shouldn't even, like I'll just write about something else. I'll write about like a Valentine's Day or whatever I was writing. And it was like, you when you're honest with people and you talk about things that really matter, and you like open up, like I think it, first of all, it helps so many other people, to like, if you're honest, like, oh, I love, sometimes when people die or whatever, people don't know what to say, they feel awkward. So I think that like it was helpful for me because when I wrote it, then all these people were like talking about my mom, which was like the nicest thing to me, because there were people who didn't even know her, and they were just like, "Whoa, she taught you to, parallel park, and she likes sports. Your dad doesn't like sports; he likes to garden." And it was just like my mom, people, my dad likes that, or my mom likes that, and so I feel like sometimes when you open up and talk about things that really matter, right? Like that's when, so I think that, back to the Weekender, I think that like people were just really like themselves, like they told true stories about things that were hard. And I'm gonna I have to show you one cover because Joe actually mentioned it. And like, so this was like in 2004, right?
Right.
And the people who we did stories on, there were three journal, and like people wrote like a letter, and it was anonymous, that was in like their journal or whatever. And then other people got, interviewed, right? And so like they might not have even been out, but they took a huge leap, right? And even the ones that were anonymous, like the letters, it must have been so hard to like just put it even down on paper how you felt about like who you were, or if you couldn't be like honest with people you worked with or your family or whatever. So I just think that people always were really like, you know, they were just honest, and they kind of they put their heart out there.
Yeah, and for
You
those
know?
of you just listening, we're looking at a cover of the Weekender from 2004, which on the cover it said "Gay NEPA," and I think what Kristie is referring to is, having people who, you know, were gay in that time, in 2004, when it was very, um, if it was rare, it was only rare because people were afraid to talk about it.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, one thing I wanted to do with this podcast was, you know, I think the reason why we are where we are today, as far as people being comfortable with their sexuality, or um, what they like and what they don't like, is because we talk about it more, and that's what I want to kind of get out of this podcast is talking about things that are difficult. I've spoken about my wife and I losing um, children, and my dad, and you mentioned you losing your mom, and it's all stuff that's hard to talk about. But if we don't talk about it, what are we gonna do? It feels good to talk about it. It feels good to get off your chest. And believe it or not, there are other people, many other people, going through the same thing. Um, so if they can hear that and kind of get some comfort as well, I mean, um, the big saying last year was we're in this together, and at the end of the day, we're in this life together,
Yep.
and um, I think we're, as a nation, we're more divided than we've ever been before. It's sad, but I hope that we can someday realize that you know we can be each other's greatest allies. But
I think you're right. And I think, even when it seems like dark, I mean, when you told that story, my daughter's saying goodnight. I'm sorry.
good
When
night,
you told
Gigi.
that, good night, Gigi, John said. even when you told that story, I was listening to the podcast. You and Leslie were talking about it, and I mean, I didn't even realize that, John. And we talk. We see each other occasionally and stuff. And like, um, I think that like what makes me feel optimistic about the world is that I know so many people who, you know, care. And like when you told that story, like, and then Leslie, you guys were talking, and I think like you were brave to open up about it. You were there for you and your wife were there for each other. And I bet you anything that like all of your friends and family, and then, people who you didn't know, maybe like if they found out, then they would tell you their story. And I think that there's so much kindness, and there's so many people who care. I think it's just like, even if you just do like, you should try your best to be like a good person. I think that like it matters,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it's really that simple, really. A life is just to be a good person. Unfortunately, not enough of us do that, and
Yep.
for various different reasons, and we can go on about that. It's just kids being raised in a household that, and that's what breaks my heart too, as a father. Just thinking about kids um, having a terrible upbringing. That's where it starts. It starts at home. You know. Um,
That was one of the scariest things when all this happened with COVID. Like my friend is a counselor, and we were talking about, and another friend of mine is a teacher, and we were talking about how, there's so many kids that it was just terrible for, or even just people, like people who are like in a like abusive household, or
yeah.
where there's like an alcohol or a rage problem or something, and like there's no escape, or people who don't have kids who don't have enough to eat. So I think that like the thing that I, again, like I try to like, I can't watch the news like all the time, but I try to like, obviously I worked at the paper, so I mean I spent my life as a journalist, so I mean I can't help it but read the news. And I think that when I see anything where anybody's trying to help in any way, it makes me feel encouraged. Like people who were like putting packets of food together for like for kids to come, parents could come and like pick it up at the school where they went to school, like even when they're virtual, or people who I mean, this was pre-COVID, but our one friend, she's a realtor, and she just out of nowhere, she put a thing on Facebook like, if you have any coats, like we're going to be like putting them up around the square in Wilkes-Barre. So just let us know, like let me know. It was just one woman, drop off your coats or I'll come pick them up. And she had like just her friends and people volunteered, and it was like right at the, in the middle of winter. And they kind of, I don't know if they hung them, or because I don't gave some to her, but I wasn't there that day because Gigi had dance class. And there was like all these people who just, they left coats around the square in Wilkes-Barre so that like people could just come there later and like get a coat.
Right.
So I think that they're, and she's just like, I was so like, it touched my heart that she did that. And she's always posting, like I see people who just are always, it could be anybody, like posting. My friend's librarian, and she posted like, oh, every week her um friends were doing like, her church was doing like a different theme for food donations for like the Dalton food pantry. And it was like, okay, we're doing like breakfast, and like people would bring like pancake mix and cereal and granola bars and stuff. I mean, I think that like, you just can't like ignore it. Everybody has to just try, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I have to give you another funny story. I brought you into
Can
like
I
this series.
can I
Yeah.
pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
1 second. Okay. Sorry.
No. I have to admit, like I didn't want to break any record. I didn't want to break Lolo's record, Mike Lolo, because he, and now I feel like I don't know. And I promise, like I only have like I mean so many funny stories, but I have one. Um so a couple, like I promised I would, so things that you can't do today. So we're talking about, COVID and and then the other thing we're talking about little things you could do. Like I I know that it like so many people are struggling in like the, you know, restaurant business and the, just endless amounts of businesses. But I have to say, like we went to we picked up food at Hops and Barley's like last week to take out, and it was just they were just getting ready to like reopen on Monday. And we saw like Mark and James, the two bartenders there, and Gigi was with me, and they were just like, we're talking. It was like, I haven't been in there obviously since COVID, but even before that, you know how it goes. Like when you have little kids and stuff, you don't get out as much as you used to. And she's just like they're like chatting. She had a mask. They're like, oh, we like your mask. And it's just like, I think you just have to, it's sometimes you get so busy with life, like you just can't forget, like you got to go and support like your fundraiser, for the bands, with the and the you
Shirts for
want
the scene.
I want you to talk about that for a second.
Oh, you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I launched this podcast, so I should start. Let me go back. So I had a radio show for 3+ years called Alt Natives on Alt 92.1, where I featured an hour's worth of music from artists in and around our area. And then a week in October, they said, "Hey, we're going to switch to Christmas music the first week of November. Your show is on hiatus." And I was
I
like,
hate
"Wow,
hiatus.
what's that?"
I hate hiatus. I hate
Yeah,
it
and I
all.
mean, like, it's one of those things. Like, I'm not an idiot, right? So I knew that when they said they're going to go to Christmas music, that for 2 months, we're not going to go back to alt. You don't alienate your audience for 2 months and say, come back and say, oh yeah, we're back. Just kidding. So I saw the writing on the wall, and I'm like, I just don't see that show coming back. And I have had such a connection to this local music scene for almost 17 years, since even before the Weekender, before my internship. I just had this connection. I wanted to be 21 so badly because I wanted to go out to the bars and see the bands play. And so when it happened, I was like, maybe I need the scene more than they need me, right? So I was like, how do I stay connected? What do I do? Because I felt I always say this too, like, I hosted a show on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock. I'm not setting the world on fire, but like when that was over, I felt lost. And I wasn't fired from my job, thankfully. I still had a job. My primary job was sales, but I felt emotionally fired. I felt lost. So I'm like, what do I do now, right? And I'm like, how do I give back to them? Like, how do I be more than just a guy in the radio and that plays their songs? How can I do more for them? So I was like, all right, well, I'll start a podcast where we can still have a platform for them to, come on, do interviews, talk about your music, what you have coming up. Like, we can talk about anything really, because, they can do that on the radio. Like they could do a radio interview, but it's that 2-minute thing where it's like, how'd you get your name? This is your band. How long you been around for? What do you have coming up? It's quick 2 minutes. It's not enough time to really get to know the bands, right? So I was like, all right, I'll do this. I'll do a podcast. I'll do this, and then I launched a campaign called Shirts for the Scene, because I was like, these bands have not been able to make money
Mm.
this entire year. This is in 2020, um, and it's like, when you think of it, over the course of however many years that we've been in the scene, right? You've helped organize benefits. What's the what's the first thing you do when you organize a benefit? You say who can play it, because who's going to draw a crowd that
Who's
comes
gonna
and,
bring a
and
lot of people? Yep.
donates the money, and they see a band, and the bands did it time after time without question ever. They're
Mhm.
like, yes, we're in. We'll play our half-hour set. Be more than happy to. Let's raise some money for a great cause. But no one has ever thought about the bands. I mean, no one. We've never
Mhm.
we've never given back to the bands. And I guess because they've never been in a situation where they needed it, you know? So I I took a look at it and I'm like, this is a year that they have not been able to make an income at all. And I stole the idea from Axelrad because they did a similar campaign for local businesses for the shirts. And I said to them, what do you think about just doing the t-shirt program focused on just local music? They said, yeah, let's do it. Without even a question, they said, yeah. So we did shirts to the scene. And how that works is if you buy, a shirt, let's say, I always think of modern ties first. I don't know why. But if you buy a shirt, a modern tie shirt, the proceeds from the sale of that shirt goes to the band. Um, and it's been live for about 4 weeks now. There's over 100 bands. You can go, and if you're listening, you can go to the popkoproject.com. There's a tab there for shirts for the scene. You can browse the store there and buy your favorite band T-shirt. There's a lot of great logos there. But the proceeds from if you buy the shirt, the proceeds of that shirt go to the band. And we've raised almost $4,500 over the past 4 weeks.
That's a lot. That's impressive.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, I would obviously want to be able to give these guys and girls a big fat check, or maybe it's $100 or maybe it's $500 or whatever it might be. But it's in my opinion, I could be wrong. I don't think that I am, but I feel like this is the biggest fundraiser done for musicians. So if you're listening and you can help support, by all means, not me, I wouldn't appreciate it. The bands I know would appreciate it. So again, that's the popgoproject.com is a link for shirts to the scene. And like I said, there's over 100 different t-shirts available to purchase. And I know that the bands would really appreciate your support. So yeah.
You got me hooked. I was looking at it the other night and I'm like, I said to Matt, like, we should just do like at least one a week, and just keep, we'll have like so many shirts, but I think that it really is, it's like a huge amount of bands. And I think like everybody just, I mean, I think if you go and like look at it, you will know so many people that you like, oh, I forgot it, we should, and really, I mean, it's $20. I mean, there's a lot, don't buy coffees for like a couple, like 3 days and or 2 days. And
Well, it's really funny because you posted those band boxes, and one of those band boxes was Dashboard Mary. And this evening, I got an email from Dashboard Mary. Well, this afternoon, rather, from Joe with the band Dashboard Mary. Love
wow.
what we're doing, want to get involved. Um, so, yeah, so it's really funny because it's funny for a couple reasons. Dashboard Mary has been around forever. And it's just kind of funny that he emailed me the same day that we're doing this.
It really is. I mean, and you know what? A lot of the bands, I mean, when people are talented musicians, I mean, the band can have so many iterations, like so many different groups of people who've been in the band, and then even people jump from band to band. You know what I mean? So if you're like if you're a musician, I mean, you're really dedicated to that, your craft, and you're like hanging in there. You're like, working a day job, exhausted, like going to, play at night. And what you said is so accurate. Like the bands are always so generous when it comes to like their time. And it was like, I don't know, it was obviously pre-COVID, but I feel like it might have been at the beginning of this year. But Iggy Scavo, like he was in the collective. I mean, he's been
Yeah.
in a ton of bands, and he was doing a fundraiser for his brother who had passed, and it was at the Radisson. And we literally, because it was all day, we brought Gigi, that she was at her first fundraiser, and we were there, and he came over, and I mean, I hadn't seen him in I don't even know how long, but he was like the first person, like when I was new at the Weekender, he like jumped in and said that he would do movie reviews for me, and our movie review writer wasn't doing them anymore. And I was kind of like in a pinch, and he had, he loved movies, and he loves, books and movies, and but he hadn't really done them. And he's like, I don't know, but I'll help you out if you need help. And like, that's just like, when I was there, I saw like, you know, like Neil Nicastro, like there were just people from all these different bands who came out. And I think that it's like, you just get a bond, like, and you, it's just really like people care, and they like donate their time, and the bands, they're just kind people.
I mean, this area, I mean, I know this area gets a bad rap, Northeastern Pennsylvania. There's a lot of negativity. But at the end of the day, this area has some of the biggest hearts that I've experienced. Anyways, we always have each other's backs. We always support when we can. And that's one thing I love about being here. I mean, yeah, would it be cool to be living in a bigger city like Boston or Philly or whatever? Maybe not now with COVID, right? But
Mm.
it's not flashy. It's not any of that, but it definitely has its own appeal. And again, doing this, I hope that it kind of helps shine a light a little bit on the good things we have in this area, because it's not all bad. I mean, you're gonna have bad things anywhere you go, no
I
matter
think
what.
it's mostly good. I mean, I know I'm an optimistic person, John, but
You
I
are.
mean, I feel like I've seen, so like think about it. So the Weekender, definitely like a customer service oriented business, right? I mean, the Times Leader, when I worked there, always like working with people. I mean, at Banco, and when I was the Abington Journal and in Philly, but I mean, I feel like all the places that I've worked have had a lot of customer service elements, and I think I can only probably name like 10 people who've made me cry over the years, being mean. And I'm pretty sensitive. So I feel like there are just so many good people. And like, I think that, like, I think if you give a person a chance to show you their best, like, if you don't like approach it with anger, like, even if so I think about that all the time now. Like, if I have to call and, like, I don't know, something's broken, or you have to, something, complain about something. It's like, I'll just, how's your day? Try to like, especially it's just like, because it's just everybody's a person, and I think sometimes even if people are mean, like you said, you don't know what is going on with them and stuff. And I don't know. But I just think that that was one of the things I loved, that I feel most proud about the Weekender, is that I feel like it shined a really positive light on, you know, um, on everybody who lives here. And it kind of, I mean, if you lived here, it kind of gave you like something to be proud of, because you were like the same as like something a bigger city had,
Right.
and you had like a really good, people going in the music scene who, being, going on to big things. And people, I think I remember we did like a story about Jay McCarroll. He was like a fashion designer, and he was like on, he's from here, and
Yeah.
he ended
Yeah.
up, I mean, so there're just like so many people who, and every time you print something or publicize somebody who's doing something positive, it gives other people like hope. It gives them like, they feel like they can be brave and try something new. And so I think that the Weekender did that. I mean, I think for all of its like funny, like, we were joking around about, like the sexiest issue. We did that, the sexiest people in Northeast PA, or like the, you know, like funny issues. Like I remember, like it didn't take 1 second. Like I would ask like Joe or Shelby, like, well, what was the serious topic? And Joe was like, oh, we did a whole cover on like a whole cover story on homelessness. And I didn't even remember that. And it was like 1 year, the Concert for a Cause was, for that, to benefit people who, didn't have a place to live and stuff. And so I think like, as much as there was fun, if when you look through all the pages, there had to be like a fundraiser on at least in every issue, sometimes more,
Oh
so
yeah.
I think that like lots of people should come to the Popko project and help the bands. And um I have to tell you, like one, I don't want to forget, like, because everybody was so nice giving me like ideas. But one thing, how I was saying, like, I didn't want to not credit anybody. Um, so one funny thing, um, we were talking about bands who played on our float, but the 1 year, the reason that got started was because the 1 year we decided to make a planet for the St. Patrick's Day parade, and we did it in like the warehouse at the time, the old press warehouse at the Times Leader. And like, I don't even know who came. Rachel was like, no, I had to go out of town for a funeral, I didn't build it. And I asked Joe's student, he's like, no, I had green spray paint in my nose for like a week. And so did Shelby. And like my friend Stephanie Bombay painted it. But like no one were like, I think it might have been like Steven Peralski. He was in marketing at the Times Leader, and Kathy Pleshy. But I'm like, someone used like PVC and like paper mache and made like, and then we couldn't get it out of the building. And like Joe had to drive it up on all the back roads because he couldn't, he didn't want to get pulled over. And it was like such the windiest day. And we get there. And so like you just think about all the people like that, put their heart in stuff. But I do remember like I left for like 5 minutes to run to Boscov's to the bathroom, and it was freezing. And I ran back, and you had to get there so early to stake out your spot for the parade. And it wasn't there. And I was like, where did they start without me? And all of a sudden, like a couple, Joe wasn't coming over. He was like doing something, and like Shelby walked over, and I'm like, "Where's the float? Like, did you guys? Who's with it?" And it like evidently while I was gone, a big gust of wind came, and it like almost hit a little kid. It almost hit a classic car. It might have hit a classic car because you're in the parade, and Joe before I got back was like trying to like crunch it down so like the planet was literally like crushed, and we were just sitting there, and like so you think you're having a low moment, and like people were being so nice, like coming by, like we saw it was amazing, and that's so bad, it's so sad that nobody will see it. And I'm like, what are we going to do for the parade, right? And Rob Sachs was there, DJ Rob Sachs, and he was just like, we have this under control, like don't worry about it. And so like he's like, just get on the float and just dance, and I will just like I'll play music and talk. And I mean, it was like you go from thinking you're gonna have this big planet. I think the float was even better because I think people were just like, laughing. There were like pieces of planet like hanging on the float, and like I will never like that. That man could ask me to do anything for him or his peer, him or his family. Like he was amazing, and he was always so much fun. Like I just think there were just so many people who just like they could really get you out of a bad situation by just like making you laugh. So sometimes like even if you can't like donate money or something, like even if you can just like you said, listen to somebody when they're having a problem, or just try to like bring some humor to like the moment and lighten it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all need that right now, right?
Yep. Well, I'm thanks for asking me to
Do
come
you have
on.
anything else up your sleeve?
Oh, John, wait, like I just have to say, like they're in like order. So
Oh
like
my
I have all
goodness.
these, I have them by year. We've got like, Fuel and Breaking Benjamin, like all these bands. And this one was funny. It was about swingers, and like the we went to like one of the hotels that was one of our advertisers. It could have been the Woodlands, and it was just like people we knew. Like we just got 3 people, and like nobody was naked. It was just like feet, because we couldn't figure out what to do for a cover. But I mean, I think that's the thing. I think like you for the cover picture, I think it was like it forced you to be creative and trying to keep coming up with things that do you know these people too now, because there's another person in the bathing suit. This was like a grill, like summer
No.
thing. I don't know. Okay, so this one I have to tell you, it's my I won't show anymore after this. This was like one of my favorite. It was the funniest. We had this artist who was like freelance. She worked at the Times Leader Wakako, and we were just really wanted to have like illustrations. And she said to me, I could try something, right? So the whole article was about all the crazy, this is again, Northeast PA, all the best places to get hot dogs. And when I tell you, like, it goes from like Schuylkill County to like, the Poconos, Wayne County, there's, but my uncle loves hot dogs, my Uncle Charlie. And so I remember like calling him and saying like, can you tell me like the best places to get hot dogs? And like, he's in the Weekender. So like my like my uncle, and they were really good like suggestions. Like one is like in Buttsville, like it's called Hot Dog Johnny's. And I just think like there's so many people who have so many different things that they're great at or they know a lot about. And I think that was one of the things that I felt happy that we tried to do, was just give everybody a voice. We did like monster trucks, and like we did, karate. Like I can't even think of, I mean, too bad we never, I mean, now you could have Cobra Kai.
Oh, you know what? Real quick. Rachel Pugh, right? Season 3 Cobra Kai sucks.
I'm
Sucks.
only I just got to like the first episode. We just finished season 2.
I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but Rachel Pugh, I'm sure you'll watch this or listen to it. Cobra Kai season 3 sucks.
Oh no.
It I I've been outnumbered. I posted it on Facebook today. My feelings on the whole thing. I am outnumbered, so I wouldn't say don't watch it or don't give it a chance. I mean, I have my own opinion. I'm entitled to that, right?
You are. Everybody's
Um,
entitled.
yeah, I just it just in comparison to 1 and 2 had me like had there not been a pandemic when I watched season 1 and 2, like I was literally researching karate schools. If there wasn't a pandemic, I'd probably be in karate classes right now, right?
Hey, you still can. There's a new
I
place
know.
you did, and you could do Zoom. They do Zoom
Yeah,
karate.
I could do it, but
But now you're mad because of
season
season
3,
3. But Karate Kid 3. So we watched them all. Like she's not watching Cobra Kai, obviously, but like we watched them. Like I don't know, at the beginning of the pandemic, we watched Karate Kid 1, and she was just like, Mr. Miyagi. Like she started taking karate like right before. She's not taking it now just because it's busy. Like you have to decide dance or karate. But but like we loved it, and then we got to Karate Kid 3, and I mean, again, if anybody loved Karate Kid 3, I'm sorry, but like she's 9 and she was like, this is terrible. Like so Karate Kid 1 and 2. So maybe it's like I haven't seen Cobra Kai 3, so I don't want to say, but and I have to, if you're gonna have Rachel on, because you've mentioned her a couple times, so I think that you need to bring up. I had a funny Rachel story, but she can verify whether or not it's true. So one of the other things I was really proud of at the Weekender was I kind of begged and pleaded our owners for like the Times Leader for the budget to go to the Association of Alternative Newspaper Conference. And we got to go like at least 3 years. The first year I went by myself because the budget was really small and it was in Madison, Wisconsin. But I mean, there was like the Stranger from Seattle, and like there were people from, the Village Voice. I mean, there were people from huge alternative, city paper and, Philly Weekly, but like all over the country. They're everywhere, just like the Weekender was. And we went. And so the second year, I went with, I don't know if it was the second or the third. One year, Rachel and I went to San Antonio. But one year, we went to Pittsburgh, and it was, and Tiffany was talking about Pittsburgh, and you said you hate it, but I think Pittsburgh's kind of fun. But we went there, and, there's all these papers. So you kind of feel like, okay, we had like however many, like 100,000 readers. Like these people have like 500, a million readers, and they're like, they have these big budgets, but there were small ones, but like we got so many great ideas, and it kind of just made us feel like this is legitimate. Like we are like at this, and they liked some of our ideas, like because you'd have round tables, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're in Pittsburgh, and I was trying to get it out of Shelby and Rachel, but one night, so it was just me and Rachel, and Joe and Shelby, I was like, just come here. Like, I'm not trying to be snaky, but like we can only afford 2 people to the conference. I'm like, you can come to like some of the events, but just drive out here. It's Pittsburgh. You don't have to fly. So Joe and Shelby, they ended up like sleeping on the floor of our hotel. They drove out. But that night we all went out in Pittsburgh, and we're at this bar, and who is there in the back room but Charles Barkley? And they were having some kind of private party. And all I know is that Rachel and Shelby were determined to get this code to get to this private party. And so like they disappeared forever. Joe and I were like, we're just going to get a cab to get home. We don't know where they are. They're gone. And like I think they got a code, and they went to some private party with Charles Barkley. But you can ask Rachel about the Charles Barkley and about her trips to the Association of Alternative News, AAN, the alternative newspaper. And I don't know. I just think I think it's just really impressive. Like there's a lot of people who've done really cool things. Shelby, I got to give her a plug. So she left the weekender. She was like you. She was an intern. We offered her a full-time job, staff writer, because the position opened. And she was so dedicated that she literally went to Wilkes, and her last year she went part-time so she could take the weekender job. So she was like going to Wilkes, graduated, was doing a full-time job, but she we were joking around because she was like, "Oh, you could just say it. I went to the dark side. I got a job in PR so that I could move to New York City." And I'm like, "It's not the dark side. I do PR now." And but she was awesome. She moved to New York, and now she's like vice president of a meditation app. She lives
Oh,
in
wow.
Colorado. So you got to have her on.
Yeah, I was gonna say you gotta hook me up with her. I think I'm friends with her on Facebook, but
Yeah.
there's definitely people that I mean
And Bob
I
Kelliger, if you have Jim McDonald, you got to have Bob Kelliger because he was like our financial backer. He's the one that was like at the Times leader. He was like the VP, like we're gonna do this, and he like stood by it. And then he launched, Philly Edge, and I went down there with him. And I mean, he's hardcore. Like when we did Philly Edge, I came up with like, okay, me and Joe and our from Margot, we made it was Edge was an E, so we got soft pretzels shaped like E's, and we took them down to like the radio stations to try to get them to talk about it. Meanwhile, I'm like thinking we're awesome. We got that girl to sing the national anthem. He like went and made a deal with the Borgata, and he was like, okay, so if you advertise for like the first 12 weeks of Philly Edge, you're entered, all the bars, restaurants, you're entered in to win like a weekend at the Borgata. And I'm like, okay, I thought I was cool coming up with like pretzels shaped like E's, trying to get the radio stations. And meanwhile, he's like, he's a big thinker. But I think that you just have to, like, it's amazing. So I think there was just a lot of talented people, I mean, like Lalo, he's in New York, Nikki Miscali. I mean, like, Nicole DePaulo's published author. I mean, Joe Student, he was down there like doing big things at the Carolina Theater. I mean, he's worked at like NewYork.com. I mean, I just feel like, and people who didn't stay in like media and publishing. I mean, look at Leslie. She, um, that whole crew. Janelle and Katie. Everybody went like human resources and Mohegan. I mean, I feel like everybody's still like a lot of people still working with people. So I think it's almost like you.
well, yeah, I feel like I mean, and Tiffany said it too. Like that job taught you how to be a good colleague. So it's like whatever path you took, it still had like a foundation of or fundamentals that you took on with you. And I feel like you know everyone's kind of still in sales to an extent. I mean, I think everyone's in sales. You're always like kind of selling yourself, and
Yeah, you got
whether
an
it's like
elevator pitch for your.
yeah, just like oh, this is what I do, and this is why I'm good at it, and this is why you should pay attention. Um, but yeah, it was a wild time for sure.
It was. And I think it gave everybody, I mean, it definitely, and I will say this too, when we were in Philly, we recruited people from here because another great thing about Northeast PA, and not that there wasn't in Philly, there were so many people who were hard workers, but I think because we were like new, people didn't know what it was. So it was like a risk to take a job with it, right?
Sure.
With Philly Edge. But we brought people from here, like Margot, and I brought Joe, begging them to come because it was hard to like find people. We ended up with a great staff, but we went through a lot of people because we were expecting weekender mentality of like,
Yeah.
work until 7 in the morning and work through your kidney stones and like, go like you've never talked in front of a crowd and get out there and get some models and men of the week. And,
Yeah.
just if you lose an advertiser, you replace an advertiser. If you don't have a cover, you get your boyfriend to wear a cowboy suit. And, so I just think that like
Do what it takes. So
you do what
that's
it takes. And that is something that Northeast PA, and I have lived other places, and I always think that's an impressive characteristic of people around here. I feel like you don't even realize how many hard workers there are here until you
yeah.
work, different places. And
You do what it takes, and then even with my time Time Shamrock, there's our motto. It's not an official motto, but I feel like we just always say it. It's like you figure it out.
yep.
No matter what it is, like you figure it out. Um, yeah, it's
I
gonna
mean,
be weird.
My old boss at the Journal, Joe Buckowitz, he's up there at the Times Shamrock, and I mean, I know,
Cool.
and that's the other thing I will say too. Like, it's almost like with the bands, like if you read news anywhere, like buy a subscription to anything, buy an online subscription, whether it's like a local paper or the New York Times or, I mean, because somebody, if you want good journalism, if you want good stories that are true, if you like, I think you got to fund it. Like if you want bands, if you want restaurants, places to go to eat, if you want, I mean, I'm all for like online shopping. I did more online shopping this year, but I still tried to buy things from like stores, even if I bought it online. And I just think you got to keep that in mind, keep like all the people who are working really hard. You got to like think about where you put your dollars and keep support like local people, local businesses.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you,
I
did
don't
the
think I
ele-
could tell you anything else, John. I
no
feel
no
like
did
I've told you so. I'm sorry.
did the Electric City start when you were the
Okay,
GM?
so really good question. So the Weekender was it. Like the Weekender was the only game in town when it launched, and I passed it out on the street corners. And then Electric City definitely existed, like when I became editor. And so that's another thing I was going to say is one thing I found over the years with newspapers in general is you can have like a really fiery competition. I felt like when I was there, we like they had a column that wrote things about the Weekender, and like we'd be out there, with trying to get the story before they, and I mean, I will say this, like they started Diamond City because like we were kicking their butt in like Luzerne County, and
Yeah.
that's why they started it. But I mean, they had a really strong hold. I feel like we had different audiences in Lackawanna County. Like Weekender was like popular in different places than Electric City. But I feel like you're all sort of in the trenches together. You know what I mean? Like, so even if it could be really competitive, it's still like, it- um, I remember one time I was out of town for something, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, Wilkes-Barre, you guys are like one of the only towns one of the places in the country. Like you have a really high readership because you've got that two paper competition." I mean, sometimes it's like it's a good thing because if you have that many people who care about like being number one and like being
I
good
think
at what
it's
they do,
I think it's great.
right? Yeah, I mean, it just it makes you. I mean, I mean, I won't say like I'm the champ at like Pictionary or Monopoly, but I have a competitive spirit. I don't know if like Gigi will play with me. Matt Rudy won't because he says I'm too competitive. But so like I think some people like competition is like what keeps you going. You want to have like.
Yeah, it makes you better. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I just that's how I was. I mean, I grew up watching Michael Jordan play basketball, and if you talk trash to him, like he would like put you in the ground. And that's I mean, if you don't want to be number one at the end of the day, like what are you doing? Like
Yep.
I think you need to have that mentality, and yeah, I mean, don't.
At least do your best, right?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
want
I'm
to
I'm
do
not
your
saying
best.
like go hurt people in the process,
Right.
but like
Right.
if you're not doing your best and wanting to be better than the other guy doing the same thing, don't do it.
Friendly rivalry.
Yeah. Do me a favor, take a picture of that cover of the pool.
I'm gonna send you I'll put it in Dropbox. It's too big to email the PowerPoint, but and if you want to come to my house and take any more pictures, or if you're having anybody else on that like wants like to have photo illustrated, Matt went and found like, because I was like, this is just not as many Weekenders, because we've had a couple floods in basements in places that we've lived, and I was like, oh, did I lose a lot of Weekenders? And tonight I didn't even open it, but he came lugging an orange and black Tupperware because we always used to have Halloween parties. And he was like, well, I think you somehow abandoned a bunch of Halloween costumes to put your Weekenders in this box. So I have like a whole other box of, you know what? If there was still an intern who was as good as you, they could be digitizing all these old Weekenders and getting them out there.
Well, I think a lot of it was or did live online at one point. Um, I don't know whose fault it is, but somebody I think deleted all of the weekenders. Like it was online. I mean, you can go back, but like I think Lelo was talking about it, how you can't go back and look at different stories and shit like that.
Well, we can we can all get together. We can digitize all of my crazy issues. And you know what? It's funny. I thought of one more thing. So when I was there, all right, so I made a little timeline of like fun facts, and like it's very short because I was tired by the time I got to it. But it was like things that happened in certain years, and like I don't know, one time there was like uh Freddie, and that we had like he said she said columns,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And we had First Fridays on Franklin. That
Yep.
was huge. We did like First Fridays. We had like the Wyoming Art Valley Art League. We had tons of. I think it was Lion Boy at the time. But there was like I'm not gonna find it. It's here somewhere in my 17 million um papers. Okay, so 2001. So that was Red Bull. That was when we Tale of Two Sexes. That was Freddie and Tracy from 93.7. We did liquid latex cover. We had Put a Cork in It. The Weekender had a wine column. The Voodoo Lounge was open and a big place for a lot of bars. We had a sports section and a health section, and there was a move of the month, like literally an exercise, pictures of an exercise. How about that? Did you know that? 2002 was we started. There was like book reviews, and we were partners with the Tudor Bookstore and Barnes and Noble. We were going big guy, little guy. We had them both.
I had to call people like we would give away books.
Yes.
One of my tasks as a an intern, I had to like, oh, you're the book of the week winner or whatever.
And think about that. Like, so first of all, somebody who loves books, publishing, got to write a book review, and then the business got business because somebody went to pick up their free book. They're probably going to buy like another book or a coffee or something. Um, that was I forgot about the book review. We had get ready. We had a bazaar update, the church bazaars
Sure,
and
sure.
picnics, but it was with the radio station at one point, and that was my other thing that I would really like. Besides the interns, like I feel like interns and radio stations were like the two things that I brought to the Weekender. I mean, we had like one intern, I think, when I got there, and by the time I left, we would have like 8 each semester. But the radio stations, I just remember one day like calling, and I think it was BHT, and I was like, hey, we should do like a contest. I don't even know how it got started, but it was definitely with BHT. And the next thing you know, like we were doing like the Survivor with the KRZ, and they would have like Jeff tell us, which was we'd go out like the man on the street. It became like sponsored. They would ask the questions on the radio, right? I mean, we had the Bazaars was like the Buzz 102.3. Like we had the Mountain. We had like every radio station. We were non-discriminatory. We played no favorites. Like we had, Model of the Year Party would be like the X and like Chris Lloyd sausage and tuxedos. We would pay for their tuxedos. The But where I was going originally was that I was there in 2003. We got www.theweekender.com, and we actually had the first online coordinator. But I mean, it was really I don't think like I don't think there was a lot to it. Like I think it was partly because we were owned by like maybe like Knight Ridder at the time, and they were having like a big online push. So we had that, and that was the Weekender Deck Series 2003. There were ads for cell phones, which I took pictures. If you saw how cheap cell phones were, I took pictures of that because it just made me laugh. All right, 2004. Are you ready? John Popko joins as an intern. 17 exclamation points. That was the Breaking Benjamin cover. We started Weekender South. Do you remember that when you were there? It was inside the Weekender, but it was like a page or two dedicated to like Bloomsburg, Berwick,
Yeah.
Hazleton. And we had like Michael Danilovich. He was like an intern who became a correspondent from Bloomsburg. I mean, arena football was popular.
Yeah.
Bon Jovi started that. We had like the arena football team. not Bon Jovi's, but we had our own. Um, there was music first, the second stage at Montage. We had the second stage and Weekender like hosted concerts with like other, sponsors
Yep.
and Clear Channel and the X and Citadel. Okay, we had First Fridays on Franklin. All right, I have to give a shout out to Damien Pick. So he was not there that long when I was leaving, but two funny things. Joe Student said if I didn't tell you about this cover, things that you couldn't do today that you could do back when I was at the Weekender and we were at the Weekender. Damien Pick wore. I had never seen the movie till this year. Don't make fun of me, but the Christmas Story with Ralphie, the Christmas movie,
Yes.
and he's in the.
Yes.
Damien Pick wore a pink bunny suit, and he and Jim Gavanis and Joe Student went to some school after hours that they had got permission in Kingston with like a rifle because it was like an air rifle, in the movie. And Joe was like, "Can you even fathom like going into a school with the, And I mean, not I'm not joking about like I
Right.
mean, but security alone. But you would never even like bring an air rifle. Like you would never bring a person dressed in a pink pajamas bunny suit to a
Nope.
school. I mean, it was just like so many crazy things. But Damien, and if I have this wrong and I'm giving him credit instead of somebody else, I'm really sorry to somebody else, but I think it was
I
Damien.
think it was Damien. Yeah.
We had a when we did First Fridays on Franklin, Damien hadn't even started yet. Like we were saying farewell to Nicole. Damien had interviewed and gotten the job. He made a gigantic street sign for us to take on TV because we were going to be on Channel 16 to like promote First Fridays on Franklin. And it was like the cover, it ended up being like an illustration of that street sign was our cover, but he made it. And I swear it was like a huge concrete like bucket that paint would come in and he made like PVC pipe. I think I had to carry it to Channel 16 at like 4 a.m. So I remember I was wearing heels and thinking like, Damien, why couldn't you make this with styrofoam or something? But I really think it was Damien. And I think he wasn't even fully there yet. And he was making like
That sounds right.
signs with PVC pipe. Um, okay, we had Pimp My Ride with BHT. We had like, I guess we would give away, like they would or we would give away. And I had to give them a shout out because Whiskey Business used to have a slogan every week. Their slogan changed and it was something funny. Like it was just like a funny saying. But people like over the years, it was good and bad. Like I feel like there were times that like it was inflammatory. We would get phone calls that like we let the ad run with some kind of inflammatory saying. But I mean, people would pick it up. So that was like not a huge ad, so people would, I think there were just a lot of funny like things that you couldn't do today. I remember one time it didn't happen, but I feel like it had something to do with the 4th of July. And Joe Student, I feel like Michael, I feel like it was like a whole office conversation. And it was going to be like things that could explode and dropping things off of tall buildings like a watermelon. Like it was nothing dangerous. It wasn't like exploding bombs. It was like just things that would explode. Like what could you do that would explode? And I'm like, I remember sitting at my desk and you know how when you're the GM, like everything sounds good until you're like, I'm like, no one's dropping anything off a building. I'm sorry. I'm like boring. You can't. I'm pulling like the I'll have to get, yanked over to the publisher's office. So I think I put like the halt to like dropping watermelons off a building or something. You'll have to ask Joe Student that one, but like I feel like there were a lot of things that we did run that we never got kicked out of Turkey Hill, John. That was pretty impressive that you guys.
Yeah, I think I was there full time. It was just I think I just started at that point, and that was not good because Turkey Hills are everywhere here, and we got kicked out.
But I'm grateful that you had me on as your guest, and I'm sorry that I was too busy getting archives in my basement to come first. And I'm
No,
sorry that my PowerPoint is not
this is
it's
great.
not like professional. I was doing it in a hurry.
I think we surpassed Lello.
Well, I beat you. No, but I think that it was like I'm so grateful to everyone who, if I haven't mentioned them, everybody who I worked with. I mean, I'm so glad that you were honestly. I mean, I've worked with a lot of interns, John Popko, and I have to say, like, you're in my top 5. I would say that you're my number 1, but I've worked with interns recently who like at my job now, who
Oh
like,
yeah, they're probably much more talented than I was.
well, they taught me how to make like Instagram stories
Yeah,
and stuff, and like I
yeah.
can't, you had your own. You came on a Monday. See, that's it. You have to remember that now. This is the truth. I don't make up things. You came in on Monday on a school day off, and you helped get ready for deadline, and you did like I don't even think you were doing all marketing stuff. I think you were like I don't know if you were proofreading or you
Yeah,
were
doing
counting
whatever.
ballots. You could have been counting ballots. I don't know, but you came in, gave up your day off, and hung out.
Well, I mean, when I was interning, I was also working almost full time at a part time job.
Wow.
So that summer was very busy when I was not working for free at the weekender for my internship. I was
I have a
trying to,
question for you.
sure.
You ready?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it. I put a comment on Leslie's. I don't know if you saw it. So here's the question. So first of all, you're obviously the number one intern because you started a podcast about the weekender. No one has done that. But I think you may be the longest running employee, and your only competition would be Michael.
Yeah. So, you know, there's two things there. So I think Rachel was close in length to
Oh,
me.
I'm gonna get fired tomorrow if she was the longest running person.
I don't know when did she start? When did she start?
Well, see,
Because
she started part time. She was doing like marketing for the weekender and for the daily. Like they had her split like in half. She was doing part time marketing, and that was when I was new. So I feel like it was like 2000, let's say.
oh, so she might have me beat.
And then yeah, she. But I don't know. Does Michael have her beat? Is the question
I
because Michael was there before Rachel.
so I was gonna say about Michael that he doesn't count. That
He worked through a kidney
I
stone.
know, and then you told me the story, and I'm like, well, I can't take that away from him because that's probably not something that I would have done. So I think Michael, at the end of the day, I think he wins, regardless of how long
How
Rachel
many
or I was
years?
there. Yeah.
You and Rachel. But I feel like we should have like some sort of if you ever do like a big group one, think of the Zoom that could be. That could be
So
huge.
yeah, when I first started this with Leslie, like in that conversation, I was like, maybe we at the end of this we could all jump on together, but that might be chaos. I mean, I just did an interview with a band that I posted today, Crooked Ways. There was four of them, so I would have made a fifth person on the screen, and it's hard on Zoom because and it's no one's fault. It's just you're not in the same room and you're doing your best not to talk over people, but it happens by accident sometimes. And then also then there's like moments when you're just like you don't talk and it's like because you're waiting for somebody else to talk. It's weird. It's a weird situation.
Mm.
But I think it'd be cool like to for everyone to be kind of in the same room. For sure. So we'll see how it goes because I mean I have a lot of people to get to.
Yeah, I'll help you with the logistics of it if you
Yeah.
want. But and you know what? I have to say, like the I don't know about you, but like I mean, I had never written a column when I got there, and it was kind of like I felt like you should because I felt like people should hear your like you are a real person, like we talked about. Everybody at the Weekender was like, you knew, you'd be out and about, like you knew a person who worked at the Weekender, and they were just like a person that you grew up with or something, or were in a bathing suit on the cover or whatever. So I remember my friend Kathy Keir, she was the librarian at the newspaper, and she came over, and she's a really good writer, and she ended up doing a column, and I think I can dime her out. She was the original Mr. Ladle. How about that? She wasn't even a guy. We made her Mr. I'm sorry, Kathy, if I gave up your secret, but there were several. There were several Mr. Ladles. And I don't have permission to give them all out. But she came and helped me, brainstorm about like what my first column would be. And she wrote a column called Diary of a Semi-Hip Chick. And she wrote that was so 90s, right? Like I feel like I was looking at the pictures of her and it was like really like 1999. But I think that everything is like you kind of just have to find someone who knows how to do it, right? It's like Google. There was no Google.
Right.
We had no Google. So you just had to find a friend, like find somebody who could help you figure it out or get a mentor, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I am not smart when it comes to the technical aspect of doing this, so I have to give a shout out to my friend Justin. who works at, or he owns Ionic Development. He helps me with the videos and audio for the audio part of the podcast.
How
And
about
then
your awesome logo? That is amazing.
so yeah, that was Keith Perks. He's an awesome dude, very talented. Shout out Keith Perks. And then the website was done by Joey Zielinski, who is in a band. He was an intern for the Weekender at one point. So I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by very talented people who are also willing to help out a dumb person.
Your intro and outro. I was listening on Spotify because Tiffany's wasn't up yet, and I wanted to, so was trying to watch the videos like to see people, but I listened to that, and then the music like coming in and everything, like your intro and outro are really cool. I mean, I feel like you've
That was a song. The band the band consisted of Bob Lewis, Kevin Callahan, AJ Jump, and Andy Sloboda, I believe his last name is. Um, that band was called Ends with Disaster. Um, they were together for like a year. But they had like one one album out. I think it's on Bandcamp. No, I'm sorry, not Bandcamp. Shoot, what's that?
Bob Lewis was in the songwriter contest at McCarthy's way
Yeah,
back when. I feel
yep.
like he was, writing original stuff, and Mike Evans, and like I said, Kate and
SoundCloud. Yeah, SoundCloud. It's on SoundCloud. But yeah, it was funny when I was putting this together. My friend Kevin was like, "Yeah, whatever you need." He's like, "I'll even write something for you." I had so many people like just kind of like say, "Hey, I'll do this for you if you need me to," which was crazy. People that I didn't even think would even offer, which it was wild. Um, but he's like, "Yeah, if you want to use any of my songs that I already have done, you're more than welcome to." And I was like, "You know what? That album Ends with Disaster was really good. I bet you there's a song in there." That's what it was. So yeah, it all worked out.
John
I,
Popko. You're my hero. I'm gonna like come and learn how to do podcasts with you.
oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm
You
doing.
do. You're a
I
great
have
host.
no clue.
I feel like the tone of all of yours, like Jane, like everybody's was like a little bit different. Like Mike's, although you and Mike both had the exposed brick in your house. I'm really jealous of.
Yes.
I've got curtains in my office, my other screen. Gigi, when I heard her telling my little girl, I heard her telling people on her virtual class, like, my mom has like this giant like TV screen thing. And it's not her laptop. And I was like, she thinks I work for the FBI or something. She's just like made me sound like a celebrity. I mean, it's really just like a plain old,
Yeah.
it's a second monitor. And I'm not like touching it or anything in the day like they do, on the movies. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Props to you for doing the podcast and
Thank you. Yeah.
pretending some part of it about the Weekender.
Yeah. Yeah. It was it's been well received. I mean, people that knew what the Weekender was are into it. You know, um, it was an important part of people's lives outside of just ours. So it's this has been a lot of fun. And it's funny when I first started this, like I was very nervous to do it, and you know, but when I started doing it, I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. So it's
Well,
all
I'm
good.
I'm honored to be asked to be part of it, and especially because then I'm an old lady now, John Popko. I mean,
How old are you?
all right, are you ready? I was gonna make you have like a big Brady Bunch Zoom call before I would tell you, but I just had my birthday in October. We're birthday buddies. I feel like our birthdays are close together.
Close, yeah.
Not the exact same day, but I first of all I was born on an even numbered year because I'm bad at math. So like that's how I would always know how old I was when I was a little kid. But I turned 50 in October. So
50?
yes. So the Weekender,
Holy shit.
but I was like a late bloomer. Like I didn't get to the Weekender till I was 30. So I was kind of like out going to bars. And I didn't have Gigi until I was 41. So like, I mean, she's a good cover because like when I'm at like third grade, most of the moms are like not 50. So the
Well, you
people,
don't look 50, so that's good for you. But
thank you, John
I
Popko.
don't think you'll ever look your age. So if I so you're 18, no, you're 12 years older than me. So if I was 21, that puts you at 33.
Yeah. So I was, yeah, because
But
I was
still,
there.
like that's young.
Yeah, I mean, well, Matt Ceruti's 9 years younger than me. So when I was there doing like the editor, I think
Holy
that was it
shit.
too. Like he was,
He's 9 years younger than you.
he's almost, he's,
He's
yeah,
almost my age.
yeah, he was like 21 when we met, and I was 30. And then, we didn't get married for like, he was 25. The one day I was giving advice, he took Gigi up to bed, so he can't hear me, but he will laugh if he hears me say this on the radio. I was giving advice to one of my friends. She was in her 20s and she was going through a bad breakup and she was here for dinner. And I said, what's the rush? Like, I mean, by the time I was at the Weekender, like my one friend and I, Christine, she would always find these awesome trips. We would use like our credit card, all the money we had, and we'd spend like $400 and go to like Paris or something, right? So by the time I, got married, I had done like a lot of things that I wanted to do. And then so I'm telling her, I'm like, don't rush, like I didn't get married until I was 35. And like, look at Matt Ceruti. He's like the best husband in the world. Like he's such a good partner. And he's in the other room and he comes in and he goes, you were not telling me that, because he's like, I was 25 when we got married. And he's like, so now you're telling her she's 27. And I was just like, well, it was different then,
Yeah, sure.
like now.
It's always different in the eyes of a woman.
It
Yes.
is. I have to
Course.
say,
Of
it's
course.
if you're the person who wants to get, but again, think about it. We talked about it with the kids thing. I mean, it took me a while, so I feel like Gigi's like my miracle. She was kind of like came. I think my mom helped send her to me, and Matt, but like she is. So I did everything late. So like I'm always late. I have a kid until I was 41. I got to do all the geriatric. I was a geriatric pregnancy. But you know what? I got to go every week to hear like heartbeats and all that because I was so old, so yeah. So I don't feel 50, but I do have to say like I feel lucky
Good.
because I feel like a lot of good things to, hopefully, a lot more, but
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me the start to my career. Um, I'm not sure how much you had. I don't know if I interviewed with you. I don't even remember interviewing,
yep,
honestly.
you did. You did
Um,
with me.
it was you and Christina, I
And
guess, right?
Christina,
Yeah.
absolutely.
She agreed to come on too. But yeah, I mean it all started there. Um it all started with that phone call from my dad who um is no longer with us. Saying that the Weekender was looking for an intern. It's funny.
That makes me I feel like the one thing again that everybody I talked to in a different way said that the Weekender kind of like put them on a path to where they were supposed to go. Like
Yeah.
you said, if they found out that like this is not what I want to do, or I have to find some way to do more with music, or I have to find, some way to do more with, writing or publishing or sports or, whatever everybody did, I feel like it put you in a direction where you felt like you could do anything.
Yeah, I mean, and no matter where they went, they definitely took something that they learned there with them, whether it's the same industry or not. It definitely still took moments and things they learned with them from that. So,
I was laughing because you definitely had to learn how to apologize and because there would be like typo in an ad, or like some ad would run on the wrong page, or something. One time we had a spelling error on the cover, which I will not forget.
ooh.
It was the word forgotten. And it was 9/11. We did the whole cover in black and white, and it happened at night. It was on a Tuesday night. And we were sitting there like, we should just not put the paper out. Like, let's not, because everything that's in the paper is going to seem ridiculous when this is so
Right.
sad and heavy. And so we just decided like the best thing we could do, we made the whole cover like black and white and wrote, like, you won't be forgotten or something. But, we spelled forgotten wrong. So it was the moment of, you know, we tried our best to like, we weren't a daily paper and we couldn't do coverage,
Right.
and we were, but we tried to like, pay honor to everybody. And yeah, I think it's one of those things you always remember where you were, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, definitely, being in sales definitely has given me thick skin, so to speak. I it's funny too because I'm you say you make it right, or I'm dealing with an issue right now with my car, um and then I'll let you go. um so my car, the only way you can start the vehicle remotely is with your phone. It's through an app, which is cool, right?
yeah.
um but also not, because if the app is not working, you can't start your car. There's nothing on the key fob. So when I was getting the car, they said, "Oh yeah, you need this app. You need a subscription to this service." And I'm like, "Yeah, you need a subscription?" They're like, "Yeah, but you'll have it for the length of your lease." I said, "Okay, cool. I'm not worried about it then." So a year goes by in my lease, and the app stops working. And this is like December 23rd.
Oh,
So it's the
right
coldest time of the
before
year.
Christmas, really cold.
Coldest time of
So
year.
convenient.
And I feel like such an asshole, right? Because like I'm like, oh, I can't start my car from inside of my house. I have to go out like a peasant and start my car. But so I called the dealership. I'm like, listen, like, I'm trying to get answers. Now I'm going on a little over 2 weeks, and I prefaced the whole conversation with, I'm in sales. I've been in sales for a long time, not because I'm trying to say like I'm anybody. I didn't even say the company I worked for, but I was letting them know that like I know the game. And this guy asks me a question, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit, because I'm in the and when I'm as a salesperson, like, if I say something and it doesn't happen, I'll make it right. Well, I feel like this guy's trying to like just kind of work around what happened. And he goes, "Well, if when you bought the car and we told you it was only going to be a year that you got this, you have the subscription, would you still have bought it?" And I'm like, "All right, guy, I understand what you're trying to do. You want me to say no, it wouldn't have mattered, and then you can say, well, then why are we even having this discussion?" It's like, I'm like, that's not the point, mister. The point is, you told me I'd have it for 3 years. I don't have it right now. It's the coldest time of year. We've had, 2 snowfalls, and I'm like, I want you to make it right. That's what I want you to do right now. Is just make it right. I still can't start my car with my phone though.
Oh no, John.
If I don't get a phone call tomorrow, I'm gonna get really mad.
It's
But
and that is the one thing you learned, right? That like I mean, if I already felt like if I did something ever wrong, like my parents were like, you gotta I remember them making me like apologize for things like that, you felt bad when you were a kid, like you did something stupid, and my parents were those parents that would like make you go over and knock on the door, and so I always feel like that was, how I grew up. But I feel like once you're in that other side of the business, and you just always then you realize like how much an apology means,
right,
because you can't always fix everything. Sometimes it's too late. The issue's out, the something's passed, the date's passed, you missed something that you were supposed to do. But you can always be sincere
yeah,
and do something. Like you might not be able to fix it exactly, but I think if you're like sincerely sorry and you try your best.
yeah. That's why I actually left the Weekender when I did. Um, there was new ownership, and it was every single week I was saying sorry, because like the production moved out of in house
Mhm.
every week, and it's people that I've built. trust in relationships with over like 9 years or whatever it was. Every week I'm like, hey, sorry, so and so, the ad that you paid color for ran black and white. Next week I'll give you a free color. And then the next week comes, it runs wrong again. Sorry, Mr. Advertiser, you paid for. I told you I'd give you a free color for your half page ad. I'll give you a full page ad next week. It's every week, just wrong, time after time after time. I'm like, you know what? I'm done.
No.
I'm not going to let you ruin the reputation I built for
Right. And you
many
have to
years.
believe, I mean, you have to believe in what it was kind of like when you said before that you're always selling something, even if it's just yourself, right? But you have to believe in whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah,
Like you have to believe that it's good. You have to, I mean, if not, I mean, I'm sure there are people who sell things or, do things that they don't, but I think that then you're not happy. Like I
right.
think you gotta have your heart in it.
So
Well, I hope your car gets fixed. I want to recap on your next podcast. Whoever you
I'll
interview next, you have to
give you. A sh-
start it out with.
I'll give you a shout out. My car, yeah, my car runs. Like I mean, like I said, I feel like such an asshole. Like this dickhead is out there complaining he can't start his car on his phone. Like
But it should work.
I know. I mean, I pay for it. I don't know. Whatever. It's I do. I feel like an asshole even talking about it. But that's why I say to the guys I'm talking to, I'm like, listen, I feel like an asshole. And if it was summertime, I probably wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But you know what? When I'm
What?
in my shorts and have to go outside to start my car, not happy.
All right. So what we have to end on a happy note. What was Lincoln's best gift for the holiday? What was his big, or not even a gift? Like what was like? Did Santa like? Did he write a letter? Like what was? He's
If you ask,
adorable, and I
if
loved
you
your family picture, your new family picture that you posted. It just made me like tear up. It was really
thank
cool.
you. If you ask him, he'll tell you his fire truck.
Yeah.
Um, one of my favorite moments because he just turned 3, so he kind of like gets it now. Like, and we were at my mom's for Christmas Eve. Don't tell the government, but we did travel. Um, my mom lives in Pennsylvania. She lives half hour away. Um, but he opened up. He loves dinosaurs. Like he's obsessed with dinosaurs. He knows how to say dinosaurs names that I never even knew existed. And if you put the word in front of me, I still couldn't say it right. And he's saying them. But he got this dinosaur gift, and he had more presents to open, but he kept holding on to this gift he got. Like he's like it was like his favorite. He couldn't let it out of his sight. And I remember like when I was young, just getting that gift that you like, oh my God, I can't believe this is mine. Like this is the greatest gift ever. Like I don't even care about the other gifts. Like I obviously want to open it, but like I can't let this out of my sight. So for me, this year that was like I think I probably teared up a little bit just seeing that. Just I mean, he was such a good kid, um, opening his gifts, and he wasn't going out of turn because I was with my mom and his cousin and my brother and his wife. But he's just a good kid.
Well, you're doing a good job. I mean, that's John Popko. I have to say, if you can bring another good person into the world and make them good and kind and fair, that's that's important. It's probably more important than most things. If you could either be a good person or you could teach a person to be good, or
Yeah, and keep sharing in your family because it's I love seeing it. It's I'm at the point in my life where I'm so happy seeing other people happy. Not that I never was, but it's different. I mean, when I was younger, you know, I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to. I don't know how to explain it, but like I'm just so happy when I see other people happy. So I'm happy you're happy. I'm happy you're doing well, and um, yeah,
well, you gave me a really good reason to like get in touch with people who I haven't. I mean, Joe is like one of my best friends. He's in best man in our wedding, but like we text and stuff, and he and Matt are always texting about like sports or news or whatever. But I texted him and I'm like, okay, can you can you do a phone call? Because I need to like clarify, because he seriously like has a photographic memory. And then I was like, oh, I gotta call Shelb. And then I was calling Rachel because she, she hasn't been here yet. And then I don't know, like I was calling my roommates, Franny and Kathy. I was like, Kathy Kier. I'm like asking everybody who was in any way. Like I was like trying to like, I was pestering people, but I think it was great because it made, I mean, that's a cool thing is that like it made me like Shelb and I haven't talked probably, I mean, Rachel and I, when we were on at mini dental school in Colorado, we saw her, which was crazy, right? And but we to be at mini dental school was crazy. But I mean, we like sort of you lose touch, like you see each other with social media, or you might text, you have a question, or you need. My other friend moved to Colorado, and I was like, "Hey, Shelb, can you meet my friend Bond for dinner because she's new out there?" But like, you don't talk to somebody. We talked for like probably way longer than her husband Jules. Like we were on the phone and like probably like 3 hours. So I think it's great because it's a great reason to like reconnect with people that you really care about and who
Yeah.
you had a special time in your life with.
Yeah. This has been great. And I'm glad that um it's kind of been the same for you and people that are also involved. So
Well,
makes me happy.
thanks.
So well, on that
Glad it
note,
wasn't on a Tuesday night, John. I'm glad it wasn't on. I still get the shakes from deadline Tuesday night. I still get the shakes.
yeah.
That was crazy.
Oh man. All right.
Well,
Well, this
thanks.
has been fun.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be watching and we'll tag a lot of people and I'll send you the pictures.
Yes, please. I want a good picture of that swimsuit pool thing so I can send it to my.
Megan Rollins is probably gonna kill me. Megan Sobieski. She's probably like, I thought that cover was gone. I have to say, for all the Halloween parties that I had over the years, I have like gigantic posters of pictures in my closet. And every year I pull them out and I will seriously text people. I'll be like, hey, I was gonna put this picture up, but it's from like 1995. Like, can I put a picture of you dressed like a Hooters waitress? Like, and Rachel will say sure. But like it's like I won't put anybody's pictures up ever without like asking them because there was no social media then. So you got to
Yeah.
respect that like people weren't signing on to like, yes, I want my picture, in a bikini out. So I'm sorry, Megan.
It'll be all right. Well,
But
actually,
Danielle,
my
too.
battery's going to die. So,
Have a good night,
all right, you
John.
too. Thank you.
Okay, love
All right, I'll
you.
see you.
Bye.
See you.